Hello and welcome back to the Game Bet Match podcast. I'm your host Manny Friedman, along with my co-host.
Brad Sloan.
Back in the house, baby. It's been a while.
The house has been vacant for a long time. There's a long vacation there. I mean, it's the first time in I think 3 weeks we've potted
I
because
know we potted for
it
the
was just
beginning of the U.S. Open, right? And then couldn't
yeah, it was
back.
just tough during the U.S. Open lines. I mean, the timing's just tough. Like for especially for a longer form pod like ours, like it's just
Yeah,
difficult. Like by the time you're done watching the matches, like you'd have to be potting in order to get like the pot up by 11 a.m. Like it's
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
ironically, ironically, it's like so good for us for watching the tennis,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so bad for us from like a potting perspective. Like,
Yeah. This is actually a really good week to just kind of recap, catch up, right? Like just talk tennis, just kind of look ahead to the end of the year, right? Like
yeah, I guess I
it's a
mean this
good
this is so
reflection
just for
week.
anybody who's a normal viewer who normally is looking for betting content, this is going to be very very light on betting content. I would
I've
say.
I've been betting Davis Cup. It's been painful. It was a painful day today betting France to beat Spain with the feast choke.
No,
But
but I meant more in terms of this podcast, just to know for our
yes,
viewers. Like this particular podcast can be very, very, very light on betting content. This is gonna be more of just a general tennis analysis podcast.
Mhm.
Just kind of getting the recaps out of the way before the Asian swing starts next week.
Yep, yep. So I guess without further ado, we gotta send our congrats to Yannick Sinner, who
I
won.
actually wanted to start off with a different story or a
Okay.
different topic story. So I think the biggest story is the balls of this U.S. Open.
And you
No,
have a
I
can
do. Like,
giant.
I just think like the tournament. Like, I don't know, man. I like. So my favorite story of this is like I went to play tennis, and I don't actually like these balls. The reason I have a can is because I went to play tennis with one of my buddies on Tuesday,
Hmm.
and so we show up to the court, and we each bring a can of balls, and he goes, it's my turn to provide balls, but I like those balls better. Here, just take these, and I'll and we'll play your can. I can't control these balls, and these are the balls he gave me are the U.S. Open balls. So you can so I was like, yep, yeah, you and the ATP players both are unable to control the balls, so
See, it's
you
it's
have
weird
something in
because
common.
actually I like those balls because I don't play with much power. And I feel like that those balls give me a little extra oomph on my shots.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I feel. I think the Wilson balls are definitely more lively, even like when playing, my level. I feel that they're more lively.
Yeah.
10 balls, for example. Those are the main two balls I play with. I don't really play
But
with
even, but
double
these
balls.
specific US Open balls seem to be even worse. Like
They're just super
even
lively.
yeah, even than the standard US Open ball. So yeah, I mean like I just thought like honestly, like it was a pretty like lame like I didn't think it was the most fun tournament to like there really weren't like there wasn't a whole lot of great play, I felt like. You know what I mean? It was a lot of like I don't know, I like yeah, I felt like it
Well,
wasn't like
is it more the balls and the conditions, or is it more the Olympic hangover? Because like I think you can equate the poor play to both of those things.
I think it's both. I think it's both. I mean, I think it's both. I mean, like the fact that the double faults were way up, right? Like as Piranha, our favorite analytics guy, like he was posting the whole time about how much
Yeah.
how and the double faults were. I mean, I think they were up like 30-40% over like normal levels,
Mhm.
and that was across the tournament. I mean, there were a lot of guys in this tournament who didn't play the Olympics, so I think like maybe that's part of it, but I don't think that's the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's weird because like the balls, I feel it's not like they were like quicker balls. They were just like hard to control balls, right? And
Yeah,
it just kind of lent
yeah.
itself to kind of poor tennis. Like we saw, like the Sinner Medvedev match was actually a very poor tennis match. It was just
Well, I mean, what's crazy, and this isn't, it's not the best stat, but I'm pretty sure that Sinner, so Yannick Sinner won the tournament, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure he had more unforced errors than winners. I'm actually gonna look at it. I was looking through the stats at one point on this, and
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure And like I said, unforced errors and winners are not the be all end all of good tennis. But I do think it's quite interesting to have a guy um,
I'd have to also
who
say that the average first serve percentage of all the guys, I think it was
was
under
way down.
50%,
Yeah, it was way, way down.
which
And
is
these guys are usually
very
trying to make
low.
60%.
Yeah.
It was just, I just thought overall it was a very like,
But was the
that's not partisan. I just thought it was just not a very like, not a very fun term. I mean, I'll always watch tennis, but I just didn't think it was like the quality, the excitement of previous, years.
but why like I mean the US Open has always played with these Wilson balls, right? Like so why was the quality of this tournament so much lower than previous editions? I don't really
I mean,
understand.
my theory is that I think the ball. I mean, yeah, my theory is for whatever reason, maybe the balls, maybe Wilson made a change to the balls. Like just because it's the same brand doesn't mean the ball didn't slightly change.
That's true.
And we saw this the whole hardcourt season. The whole hardcourt season, they used these US Open balls. We saw it the whole hardcourt season. We saw it at Cincinnati. We saw it in Canada. Like it was, the whole time.
Yeah. And I think, if we talk about Carlos Alcaraz, like I think it's that's a reason why he struggled so much. It has
Yeah,
to
I
be
think it's a
the
big part of it.
balls.
Yeah, I think it's a
Big
big
part
part
of
of
it.
it.
And
Yeah.
I do think that the mental toll that the Olympics and the French Open and Wimbledon took on him is plays a role, right? Like I
I
don't think
also just don't think he's a very good, like a very good medium to fast hardcore player. He's too he's not consistent enough. Like he's too, and I think a lot of that's like his probably more of like the showmanship kind of piece than the. But I just think he makes too many errors. Like you know, and I'm not saying he's a bad hard, but like compared to the other surfaces, he's like what does he want on a hard court besides the U.S. Open and Indian Wells?
he made a Cincy final.
And that was a fantastic tournament. Actually, that wasn't a very good tournament. The final against Djokovic was really good, but he lost sets the whole way. Like that was
Yeah.
similar to the U.S. Open run. Like he lost a set to Max Purcell. He lost a set. He
To
lost sets
Tommy
to like
Paul,
some.
he lost a set to Jordan Thompson in that run.
Yeah, like it's a
Yeah,
lot of like he
Hubie.
lost sets to guys who aren't. He got kind of lucky to get past Hurkacz. Like
Hmm.
yeah, it was like and the US Open run was the same where it wasn't like he played great tennis to win that US Open. He
He
just
was
was
just
so much mentally tougher than
yeah
everyone.
at 18 years old, which is ridiculous.
Oh,
But
I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous, right? And like,
yeah,
and like we're not coming on here saying that Alcaraz is like not a top 20 player on fast hard courts. It's just he certainly isn't the top player on fast hard courts. I don't think
no,
he might not even be top 3. Like I think it's hard to I honestly right now it's hard to make an argument that Medvedev and Zverev wouldn't be ahead of him on fast hard courts. Not to say that he wouldn't beat either of them in a head to head, but I'm saying in terms of like,
mhm.
like just overall
Consistency.
level.
Yeah, if the whole
Yeah.
season was played on indoor fast hard courts, who would be ranked ahead? And
Yeah.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Um, yeah, I mean Australia is quick, and he hasn't made it past the quarter there, right? Lost to Zverev and got outplayed pretty bad
Yep.
in that match, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you make a good point, and I think that going forward into this Asian swing, like I think overs. Obviously, you have to use some caution because I think he's going to be hungry this time around. Like I think his motivation going into the indoor swing is going to be really high, and I
But
think he's
I mean, what's the motivation for? I mean, I don't know, man. Like, what's the motivation for? Just to
well.
prove
I
like
think
prove
he was
doubters wrong?
But well, I think he's like really pissed at how that summer hardcourt swing went, and I think he's going to try to make amends and finish the season strong. Like I think the urgency to finish the season strong is higher than it was in years past when he made the U.S. Open semi and won Wimbledon for the first time. Like now I think he wants to become like, that Djokovic and have a good year from start to finish kind of thing. And like, can he carry some momentum
I
into
don't
next year?
know.
So I think he's just going to be really hungry. So I think you have to use a little caution. But I think overs plus 1.5 sets, I think they're going to be profitable plays. Like if you play that more often than not.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, Sinner has wrapped up the world number one.
Yes,
Like he's
no
3,000 points ahead. That's not. I mean, it's possible to make that up. There's still two Masters and ATP finals, but it's highly, highly unlikely.
doubt.
So
I mean, he's what? He 4,000 points ahead.
yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty crazy. So looking at Alcaraz, right? Like Alcaraz has 6,000 points. He has two slams,
That's 4,000.
and he won Indian Wells.
That's 5,000.
Yeah, and he's got 1,000. Like otherwise, he's got 1,000 total, which is pretty crazy. Like it's kind of interesting that like outside of those, and some of it
And
too is
doesn't
like,
like what 500 come from like making a semis of the World Tour Finals?
well, no, I'm saying I was using race points, so just points year to
Oh,
date.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. He won Wimbledon, obviously won the French and Indian Wells, and other than that, like he really hasn't played a whole. It's crazy too. He really hasn't played a whole lot of tournaments this year. He's got one, two, three, four, five, six,
He made
only
quarters of
12 tournaments
Miami.
year to date, which is
Made
kind of interesting
quarters
too.
quarters of Miami. He made, I think, what, second round of Buenos Aires or
Yeah, that's when he got hurt against Montero.
right.
You're talking about the loss to Yari because he lost to Yari too, right?
Oh,
In the
that was
home
a
tournament.
semi in Buenos Aires, and then he lost, I
Yeah,
think, first round in Rio.
when he got hurt. Yeah,
Right? Quarters of Australia. Right. So that's
yeah,
like, and that's it. Oh, quarters of Madrid.
yeah,
Lost to
yeah.
Rublev. So yeah, I mean that's it. That's not much.
I mean, he still has a ton of matches, right? So I mean, because he played because he played the Paris Olympics, he's
Right.
he's got I mean, he's got 48 matches under his belt year to date. So it's not like he's not playing. It's just between playing the Olympics and
But if he doesn't win one of those two slams, what does he rank? Like 7 or 8?
no, I mean the funny thing is I mean, the hilarious thing about this. So the race. I have the race to Turin up right now. So Yannick's in first with 9,000 points. Sinner's in second, or Zverev is in second, 6,100. Alcaraz third, 6,000. Medvedev 4,420. Fritz 3,890s in fifth. So it's crazy the gaps. Like
Yeah.
one if he lost if you just take out a slam, he goes down one spot. Like
Yeah, it's
it's
crazy.
just so top heavy, right? Like it's the other complaint we always have about, and we did get some big upsets, so at least we got Fritz to a final, which was fun. But
Yeah.
but it's just the top guys, like, yeah, like it's really hard to not have one of these top four guys, five guys win the slam.
So what's your so I think Alcaraz's schedule, he's gonna play obviously Labor Cup, and then I think he's gonna play Beijing and Basel, Paris, and the World Tour Finals and Davis Cup. Right.
No
So
Shanghai.
oh yeah, and Shanghai. So his schedule is pretty packed.
That's a pretty packed schedule. I mean, there's not that
Yeah.
many weeks. That's only 6 weeks. It's basically playing every week.
So what's your over under on titles won for Alcaraz leading to the end of the year?
Oh,
Like,
so for rest of year,
yeah. Does he win one of these?
I was gonna say maybe 1.5 is a fair total, but that even feels a little aggressive. Like, yeah, because it's. I mean, those are all gonna be pretty tough fields.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's playing like the 250s coming up next week. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
I it's really hard to say. I think the over under should be at 1, like 1 even at -110.
Okay. Okay.
And I'd probably lean over just because
Yeah,
it's
I'm gonna
Alcaraz.
go down to 1 too, because the thing is like he's scheduled to play in all those events. Will he
Hmm.
really? You know what I mean? Or are you gonna see him pull out of stuff? Like, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I think like Basel is likely he could pull out of,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I could see him playing just Beijing, Shanghai, Paris in the finals.
yeah. And because he also has Davis Cup, I think he's prioritizing that as well.
That's right, yeah. But that's after World Tour finals, right?
Yes. It's a week
Yeah.
after, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the loss to VDZ at the US Open was shocking, but I think the balls really impacted him, but I also think he needed a mental break. Like I think
I agree with both those takes. Yeah, I think both takes are fine. Yeah, I think both takes are fair, you know. I also think, look, we have to give VDZ credit too. Like VDZ played a really good match as well.
he did, but I also think like we can't consider Alcaraz like big three level when you're losing in second rounds of slams.
I don't know,
Like
man. Like I don't.
those
You
guys
get a
never
couple
did it.
mulligans.
Like the streaks which made Federer's career was those 23 straight slam semis, the 36 straight quarters, like the Djokovic years in 11, 15, and 23. Like these are the years which solidified those guys. Like Nadal in 2010, a 3 slam year. They didn't have these early losses.
Well, early loss, right? I mean, we're talking about literally one loss. That's kind of where I go with it is because I mean, right? Has he had any other early losses?
I guess Miami, right? This quarter.
Well, Miami's fine. Like Masters, those guys would get upset. Like that like man, you see those guys get upset in Masters like once a year. You know, each of those guys like. But
I mean,
I
he
mean,
lost
his
to
other losses for his
Dimitrov and then
career,
Rublev. Rublev in Madrid. That was a bad loss from a setup.
I don't think that's that bad of a. I mean, like, and again, like Masters is a different story, right? Like, I'm sure you can go back like through Nadal and Federer, and even those seasons they would lose. I mean, they each had a couple of seasons where they were like gods, like incredible, like whatever. When Federer started like 39-0, and there was the year that Federer had finished like 3 losses, but like it's I don't know. Most of the time there's like one or two per season where they just take a bad loss for whatever reason.
But in a slam, I think that's where it kind of
It's
shines.
one. It's one. I think if it's one loss. Like other than that, in the since he became Alcaraz, like the worst guy he's lost to besides that is Sinner 2 years ago at Wimbledon.
Round
So
four.
like I don't think it's been.
So 23, he didn't play Australia, right?
Yeah, he lost to Djokovic in the French, and he
Semis.
lost to Zverev at the U.S. Open.
No, Medvedev when he went on
Medvedev, yeah,
his
yeah,
own.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, Medvedev, yeah. But Medvedev played fantastic. Like those aren't bad loss. No, there's nothing bad there. Like
Yeah, it's not bad. And then this year lost to Zverev in the quarters in Australia, won Wimbledon in the French, and then VDZ.
Like I get it. You don't get a lot. I agree. You don't get a lot of these mulligans, but
No.
you get like one or two.
So this is like okay, this is like equivalent to the Djokovic losing to Istomin in
Or
17.
the Stakhovsky or the for the
Right.
Stakhovsky for Federer, the Rasul for Nadal, right? Like I feel like I don't know. You get like if you're trying to be like elite, you get like maybe two or three of these a decade.
Okay. All right. Fair. I think that's fair. 2 or 3 a decade. So Alcaraz has one.
He has one in
Let's
3 years,
we'll
right?
keep
Because
it.
he really kind of came on the scene in 2022. So he's got
Okay.
one in 3 years. So it's
We're gonna keep a tally, Carlito.
yeah.
If you're listening to the podcast, we're keeping a tally.
Yeah.
We're keeping a tally. I don't think he gives a crap, but who cares?
I think he's probably not he's probably just not happy that he lost in the I mean he just had a bad swing too, right? Like he had the really bad loss to Monfils where he just played like terrible.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of everything. You know what I mean? Like ball's hard to control. Surface doesn't suit his game as well as other surfaces. And then you tack on the mental fatigue thing. I mean, it's just a lot, you know, like there's
Right. But
and like a highly emotional match, right? Against Djokovic, like a highly emotional loss against Djokovic.
agreed. But you put Djokovic in the same situation in 21 where he lost in the Olympics, and that was extremely emotional for him, where he lost the semifinal to Zverev and then the bronze medal to Carreño Busta, and then comes back around and makes the final of the US Open, right? Like making a final is way different than losing in the second round, right? That's where to me the gap is, right? Like he's not there yet in big three stature, which everyone is touting him to be, is what I'm saying.
I would say it's that he hasn't had like he hasn't done anything that they've done, right? I mean, he hasn't done it's all just based on potential and wanting to have a big three because three is a fun number. Like
Well,
it's not
he has the Channel Slam, winning the French Open and Wimbledon back-to-back years or back-to-back. I mean, that's
okay. He's got
Federer
that.
hasn't
He's
done
got
that.
that. He's got that. That is legitimate. He has that. But like he doesn't have the three slam year. He doesn't have like the year with less than five losses. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have any of like which I think all three of those guys, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, maybe not Nadal, but Federer and Djokovic definitely had. Each of them
Yeah.
had like a couple of like ridiculous years where they lost like less than five
I think
Masters.
'06 for Federer was like 93-5 or some
That's what I mean. Yeah, where it
stupid.
was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And was it Djokovic that started the one year like 39-0 or something?
41-0 and 11. And he lost to
Yeah.
Federer at the French. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
like, that like so I mean, look, and that's the whole thing, right? That's the whole silly thing of it is like it's a dumb even like question. Like it's not a no, it's not a fair expectation. It's the same thing as like Drysdale saying Alcaraz is going to win 20 slams. It's not a fair expectation.
It's not a fair expectation, but it is in a way that Alcaraz is aiming for that, right? He's talked about how he wants to be measured with those guys, right? So that's who we're comparing him to. If he didn't say
Okay.
that, or if he didn't have those aspirations, then I agree with you. But he's aiming to be one of those guys, one of the
I
greatest.
still feel like it's unfair. I still feel like it's unfair. Like he can put that name out there, but I feel like it's unfair to like. I'm not saying you can't criticize him. You can criticize him, but I'm saying it's like I don't know. I don't like. I'm not gonna like. I'm not putting it over under at 20 slams.
I agree with that. I agree with
Right. Like I guess this is
yeah.
kind of where I'm going with it. Like I think like I think it's like it's a
But
hard tool. I mean,
but
look, like
from
when
a
you
from a tennis perspective, at his age, at 21, he's the most complete player. He's more complete than, or he's better at 21 as a pure tennis player than any of those three guys were.
okay, okay.
So I don't know. I mean, I think the game has improved since then.
I also think I mean the ironic part of it is like the ironic part of it is that Djokovic and Federer had a harder time getting to the top. Right, it took both Djokovic and Federer more time
Mm-hmm.
to rise, right, than it did Alcaraz. Like, and it took them more time than than a lot of other players, right? Like Agassi rose up really quick in the early '90s. If you're going back to other eras, right? Like it took, I feel like, I
But
like how old
Nadal,
was
but Nadal at this age was primarily a clay courter, whereas Alcaraz can play
when
on
did Nadal
surface.
win his first Wimbledon?
'08. I mean, he made finals in '06 and '07 when he was
And he
19 and
lost to
20.
probably to perhaps the greatest grass quarter of all time, and he was 20. So I think
But he
I
was
think it's
more
close.
defensive. He was more defensive in his mindset, whereas Alcaraz can play defense and offense.
Yeah, I mean, Alcaraz is certainly more well-rounded if that's the question. But if the question is who is better, I think it's I don't know that it's that clear cut between him and Nadal. I think like Nadal, you know, I agree with you. I mean, Nadal's career, he was primarily a clay courter, right? Compared to other surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, like Nadal's worst surface was probably hard court as well.
I would say it's grass.
It's tough because like for grass, you're looking at like I guess I'm looking like Nadal. Like I mean, Nadal won slams in the hard courts, but he never won World Tour finals. Like I feel like he didn't win. Like how many Masters did Nadal rack up on hard courts?
Not
I can
many
actually.
of his like what 30, so how many Masters? 36 or 37?
Yeah, like I'm actually looking it up right now. Um,
He has a Cincinnati. I think he has like 4
10,
Montreals or
10, 10 hard court
something.
Masters in his career.
And he never won
One, oh no,
Miami.
that's on, yeah, 10 on hard. Um, One Madrid the year they played it, or I guess was that the year they played on green? I guess they're counting that as hard, but a Canada, an Indian, or no, two Canadas, three Canadas,
One
sorry,
Cincinnati.
five Canadas,
Yeah,
one,
there's a
two,
lot of
yeah,
Canadas.
five Canadas,
One
three Indies
Cincinnati.
left, and one Cincy. Yeah, you got it. Those are
No
the
Miami.
9.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like but I get you because his slam performance on hard maybe was better than that of grass, so it's hard to
Well, best of
imagine.
5 favors him, right? Just because of how
Yeah,
well he competes and stuff. So,
yeah, and the serve
um,
isn't as big of a deal, right? Or, like the serve is most important on grass, so yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I think
it's funny
overall my
that
take is like
it's funny that like we compare or we're comparing Alcaraz to the likes of the big three, yet the player who's world number one and just won the most recent slam, there's no comparisons of him to the big three. And I guess like that's where we transition. Um,
yeah, that's a good transition. I think Yeah, I mean, I just no. I mean, I think the biggest thing there is like I said this. You and I've had this debate. I said this 8 months ago. I just don't think Yannick Sinner has like a star personality the way Alcaraz does. Like I don't like the way Sinner won this tournament. Right, was like very grindy. So I look.
yeah, he didn't play that well.
Sinner did hit more winners than unforced errors for the tournament. But in the last 4 rounds of the tournament, if you go from fourth round on, after he beat up on like Mackey and Mickelson and O'Connell, the
Yeah.
last 4 rounds he was dead even on errors to winners. His ratio was exactly 1. So like, yeah, he just drew like a lot of forced errors and just kind of grinded his way to a slam title. But like he's not like, and his defense has gotten really damn good.
Hmm.
Like that's what's made him so much. That's been the improvement, defense and
Yeah,
consistency.
but I thought his level at the Australian Open was significantly higher than it was here.
I agree. But where I'm going with this is like Sinner's defense isn't particularly flashy. Like it's really freaking good, but
It's good. I
it's
agree.
not flashy. Like if you're not a tennis fan, I think it's a little bit hard to appreciate.
Well, he does it with his length more than his speed. I feel.
It's Yeah, and I think the other thing is I think it's Djokovic without the crazy stretches.
I agree with that.
Right? So like it doesn't like and that's probably because he's longer, but like, like it's you win a lot of points by hitting balls deep in the court.
You
You don't
do.
get a lot of fans by hitting balls deep in the court, right? Like, and he won. I mean, his depth is really good. Also, I think that's something that's not talked about. He just
Yeah.
hits the ball into like really good places in the court.
And his ball quality is I think the highest of anyone on tour, right? Like
Oh, by
his
far, by far,
regulation ball,
his
and
regulation ball quality. Yeah,
he's gotten really good at being able to hit those regulation balls when he's on the stretch.
Exactly.
you know?
100%. And I think that's the difference is that like Alcaraz's like peak ball quality is higher,
Yeah.
but like the average ball quality for Sinner is higher.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And if they played on a hard court, like I'd give Sinner a significant edge. Maybe not
Yeah,
in best of five. I think it levels out a little bit, but like in a if
it
they play
does because the physicality. I mean, that's
right.
the issue for Sinner, right? Is physicality. Like
And
that's
if
the
they
only.
played the best
That,
of three, like in in Beijing or something, I would give Sinner a sizable edge. Like I don't think
oh, very
Alcaraz has the
sizable.
floor.
Very sizable on a quicker hard court. Very sizable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I don't think Alcaraz can meet that match that consistent ball quality,
No,
you know?
no.
So he would have to do some special stuff with like drop shotting and come into net, but like just the X's and O's,
Which is, I
points.
feel like, and I feel like Alcaraz hasn't been using the drop shot as much as he used to. I don't have stats readily available on this,
Mhm.
but I feel like he hasn't been using the drop shot as much as he used to. Just watching.
I'd agree. I think that might be a tactic they're using with Ferrero. Like maybe they thought that he was overusing it. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but I think another thing that has to go mentioned with Sinner is his serve. Like I think his serve has drastically improved as
I
well.
agree. I agree.
So and just getting mentally stronger. I mean, I think his physicality has improved. I think it's still an issue. Like he wasn't pushed to 5 sets in this tournament. So
No, no. I mean, and he really wasn't even pushed. He didn't have a single long match. Like he was pushed to 4 sets by Mackey
Medvedev.
and Medvedev, but those weren't 4 sets. Those were 3.5 sets or three
Right.
set matches.
Exactly.
Like
I
they
think
were,
Draper was the most physical match, honestly, and that was straight sets.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and honestly, like, yeah, it's he's just the comedy. He's just a level above. Like this is the second slam he's won. This is the second slam he's won this year where I guess the Australian he was tested by Medvedev in the final, but Medvedev was just out of gas. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, other than that, yeah, he really hasn't been tested. He really wasn't tested in either hardcourt slam other than that final. I don't know. I don't know that Medvedev match was that much of a test. Like, yes, Medvedev dominated the second set, but
I think
quarters were
Medvedev
still
just didn't play well, especially in the big moments. Like he didn't execute on break point very well. I actually thought his tactics were quite poor in that match, and that's usually an edge for him.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like
I think the way to play center is actually going up the center of the court and actually kind of baiting him into kind of hitting bigger and forcing him to open angles. Like when you go wide, that opens up the court for him because he can generate an angle. And he's so long and so powerful going, and able to generate such good ball quality from the corners. And that's when people get in trouble, I feel.
I actually this is kind of an old take, but I think it's still true. I think the way to beat center is to actually I'm going to go exactly the opposite, but it's to vary depth. Like you've actually got to hit more like I think lower short like lower not short balls but like lower shorter balls to try to like make him hit balls from like the middle of the backcourt as opposed to like from behind the baseline. I mean he's miles better than he used to be from there, but you're not out hitting him from the back of the court. I don't think it matters if you go
Okay.
angle, center, middle. You know what I mean? Like I just think his ball quality
Well,
is just
that
so much
that
better.
I mean, what you're saying is exactly what Fritz did badly, right? He kind of made it a ball bashing contest, and like you're just going to come up second if you do that against center.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I agree with that, but Medvedev doesn't necessarily do that anyway.
No, no, I don't. Yeah, and Medvedev just hasn't been like I mean, he's had good results in the slams in the best of five, but I don't think like I don't know, man. Watching him play, he doesn't seem to be at the level he was maybe
Mhm.
2022 and 2023.
I tend to agree with that. I mean, he had a pretty pedestrian hardcourt swing, and that's being generous. Like he was pretty poor.
Yeah, I mean, and even in this tournament, like he lost a set to. I mean, he did dominate most of his matches, I guess, but the wins leading up to the quarter with Sinner, he beat Lajovic, Marzon. Cobolli's a decent win, and Nuno. Like, it wasn't like he was beating like top players to get there. So like he really,
Yeah.
he hasn't. Yeah, it's been a. It really just in general, like he's had a great year in slams, ironically, but outside of that, he hasn't been like the results really haven't been there.
I mean, the French was pretty poor, like losing in four to Demonor in the round of 16. It's okay, I guess. I mean, yeah.
It's not good. It's not good. It's
Yeah.
bad, but it's not like Alcaraz losing to VDZ, right? Like
Right.
you would say
So
it's
if
like
if
it's like a
like
C minus or something, right? Like a C minus or a D kind of performance. Like
we should keep track of like slam bad loss points. Like if you lose in the first or second round, you get 5 points. If you lose in the third or fourth round, you get like 3 points.
and like lowest total wins.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it would be a fun game to play.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um I mean Sinner, you have to say that he's kind of had I mean he didn't win 3 slams, but this season, if he can like finish it off with a good run, in this Asian swing and indoor swing, like this is a better season than Alcaraz has ever had.
Oh no, I mean it's an insane season. He's 55-5 this year. He's
Yeah,
had a really freaking good, like, I mean, he's had a year, like, if he finishes it off, like, and it's not unreasonable that he could sweep. I mean, it sounds insane, but it's not unreasonable he could sweep the rest of the year, especially if he only plays 4 tournaments. If he only plays one 500 and the 2 Masters, like it's not unreasonable he could sweep. Like this year on hard court, he's got 2 losses. The one to Rublev, the weird one to Rublev in Canada,
hmm
and then the one to Alcaraz at Indian Wells, which is Alcaraz is great at Indian Wells.
right. That's a great surface for him. That's slow hard court, high bouncing.
Like he's not gonna play Alcaraz on a slow hardcore anymore. So take that out, and he's 55-4.
Yeah,
Like not 55. Sorry, he's on hardcore. He's 35-1 this year. If you take out that loss, like which is a very
yeah.
expensive one to
It's
Alcaraz. Like
pretty it's pretty damn good. Plus, he made semis of the French and quarters of Wimbledon. Like it's not.
I'm going with it. Like if he sweeps out the rest of I don't think it's unreasonable that he wins 4 titles. Like that he wins a 500, both Masters and a World Tour Finals. I don't think he'll do it. I wouldn't put -110 odds on it, but I think it's feasible.
Mhm.
And if he does that, he'll finish the year like 75-5 or something. Just taking a rough guess.
And have like
Like
13,000 points. That's a Djokovic 2011 type of year.
that's my
Like,
point. Yeah, like it's not out of play.
yeah.
I mean,
And
even if he wins just two of those, even if he wins just 2 of those titles, right? Like even if he just wins like World Tour Finals and one other title, like, and he finishes like 73-7 or 72-6, that's an amazing year.
yeah,
Like, and that's pretty close with those other great years we've talked about. Like, yeah,
it's not quite there, but it's close.
yeah, I mean, it's it's
I think
it's
people are not talking about it this way just because the middle part of the year, the French to the Olympics, was not bad, but it was okay, right?
well, he didn't win Wimbledon, which is probably the tournament that people look at as being the quote unquote most prestigious, right?
But it was
Uh,
also a tournament that everyone thought that he should or could win, right? Like he was the odds maker's favorite for most of that event.
right, right. And he lost in the quarter,
Right.
and he didn't lose like a classic final. He lost to Medvedev in the quarters, who wasn't thought of as being a great grass
When
player.
when he's won 5 or 6 previous meetings, right?
Right, right. So I think there's So I think that's a reason. Um, and again, like
Not playing the
I just
Olympics.
not playing the Olympics. And I do think like
The five
he's
set
not.
issues.
I'm gonna go back to like the personality thing too. Like I just don't think he's like particularly good at like self-marketing. Like he's well politically connected. He did a really good job of getting through the whole steroids, issue. Relatively smoothly, I would say. Or at least he got the worst of it, I think, behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I don't like again, I'll go back to like compared to Alcaraz, he doesn't have like that A side star personality. And he doesn't have like that obvious thing that like separates him, right? Like if you look at like if you look at the big three, right? Like honestly, if you look at any of like most of the stars of tennis, there was like something that separated them that like besides just the pure tennis that made them like a star quality. And I don't know that Sinner has that.
I mean, Federer has that elegance and class, plus he was the first guy to dominate, right?
Right.
I guess. Nadal
Right.
has
Nadal had
that.
like the strength and the athleticism, right? And the raw athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
Djokovic had the mental side and also Djokovic did a lot of stuff to like make enemies coming up. So he kind of like not
Yeah.
intentionally, but he made himself a lot of enemies. And so he became like that heel, like
Well, he became the villain, right? Like,
that's what I mean by heel, right? Heel
yeah,
villain, same
yeah.
thing. So
Mm-hmm.
he became he fell into a very easy story. I don't think there's like a there's like Sinner's a really really damn good tennis player, but I don't know like that there's like an obvious. The only story with him would be the contrast versus Alcaraz, but
Yeah,
I
and
feel like he'll like
he's also
that.
Western European. I feel like he's a well-mannered guy, right? He doesn't look to be controversial. This steroid thing came out, but like it's not his doing, right? It's
Yeah, I don't think, and he doesn't have like the obvious elegance of Federer and the attacking game of Federer. Like if he had a more attacking game, I think his tennis could still like his like. I mean, again, really freaking good tennis player. But
yeah.
like
I enjoy
he's,
watching it. I think it's fantastic
but
to
I
watch.
think it's like it's a tennis player's tennis to watch. Like it's not like it's not obvious.
I
Like
mean,
he wins a lot of points just by putting balls in good places and drawing errors out of people.
one of my buddies who, he grew up a big Nadal fan and stuff, and like, we just hit, like he doesn't play matches, but
Yeah,
he just like now he's not a tennis fan like we are, but he just enjoys watching Sinner. Like he just like this guy just hits the ball so freaking well. Like on every ball is just like incredible,
yeah.
and it's like,
I just
yeah,
don't know that he
right.
has like that cross marketing. Like you take like so to go to the opposite, right? Like Tiafoe, right? Like Tiafoe, like as a tennis player, like not really doing anything. But like the way he gets marketed, you'd think he's got 5 slams,
I know. I know.
right? And like we complain about it all the time, and like he's the most obvious example. But like and being Italian, I don't think is bad, but it's not particularly interesting, right? It's just another like Western European country, like he's not an American or an
He also
Asian,
doesn't
like
have the physique, right? Like the
he doesn't
physique is
have the
not really
physique. Yeah,
attractive. The like I feel like if he had this amazing 5 set record and had this like warrior ability to him, like that would be a turn on. He doesn't have that either.
and he doesn't play it up, right? Like he just gets hurt and misses tournaments. He doesn't have like these injuries that he like fights through with like with magic, with like
Right.
poetic magic. It's just like he just gets hurt and doesn't play. Like
Exactly.
which
Yeah.
is like again, like it's like it's just unfortunate because like one of my takeaways from this is that like without Alcaraz, like from a pure marketing perspective, tennis is in a tough spot because they're left with like you're like right now the top two guys are a guy who is super nice guy, like great dude, like nothing wrong with him as a person,
Mhm.
but isn't particularly exciting and has and this story I think will melt away within 2 months, but has that right now hanging over his
Yeah, he has
head.
that
And
baggage,
right
right?
now, number two is Zverev, who like is just a jerk by all standards.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Regardless of whether or not, regardless of whether or not he was actually guilty of the DV, the
Right.
domestic violence stuff, regardless of whether or not he actually did that, he still is a jerk.
Right.
Or at least there's a ton of
Yeah,
instances
he's
of him
just
being a
not
jerk, right?
likable.
Like,
He's just not likable.
yeah,
And his game is not
which sucks. His tennis game, I think, is super likable. Actually, it's not really though. Like his tennis game is like
it's not. I
it.
just respect how much he's improved, right?
Again, it's a tennis fans thing. Like
Yeah.
he's got a tennis. He's not a guy who's got like a tennis fans game, but he doesn't have like a I don't know, like a random person off the street game, where like
He's starting to lose the tennis fan in me because like you got to get over the hump in some slam. Like it's just these mental problems. Like
well, that's
it's
the problem too, is that nobody wants to root for a guy who's just mentally weak
I know.
and
And
then whiny, like
he is
mentally weak and
whiny.
then whiny, like his press conferences are so bad.
They are.
Like after he loses, he's always got like you know. And I actually thought the one after the U.S. Open was okay. Like I don't have an issue with him saying like I couldn't hit my backhand today. It was frustrating that I couldn't hit a backhand. Like that's fine. The ones that I hated, the whining after the Alcaraz loss about like how the whole like the ball that was like I
Yeah.
guess maybe Hawkeye said it was a
That's
centimeter
one
out,
point out
like
of like hundreds of points. Like
and a
get
ball that
over
was
it.
like and a ball that was like with like maybe a millimeter out. Like if it was actually out, like, it was within the Hawkeye margin of error. Like somebody
Hmm.
came out and checked the mark and said it was good. So like and like you're gonna then and like it's one thing to like lose it in the moment, but then to come to the press conference afterwards and whine to me
Hmm.
was just like, and then to talk about how good his 5-set record was really good at the French when it was like beating up on like a bunch of guys outside the top 50. Like it's just like like everything he says is just like it's just like it
And
makes him
for
like
being as physically strong as he is, to be as mentally weak as he is like just so unattractive as a
yeah,
fan,
yeah, it's
right?
just really hard to like it's really hard to and it sucks because like honestly, actually the whole story with like the diabetes thing and everything could actually be a really interesting story if there just wasn't so much baggage. Like in
It,
order for tennis to try to market Zverev to really like they do market Zverev, but in order for them to really market Zverev as like a star, like the way they market
I
Alcaraz,
totally agree.
you've got to ignore like every press conference, the DV stuff, the smacking in a chair at Acapulco, like like you've got to
There's
ignore
so
like
much baggage. It's true.
yeah, it's like so it's
No one
like
talks about the diabetes because of all that baggage, I feel.
which is unfortunate because it is a really inspirational story.
It is. It is. And he's made himself into an absolute physical specimen and a beast who never really breaks down
That
ever.
A and B, like he's also cleaned up so many parts of his game.
He has. His net game is significantly improved.
The
The
serve
second
is
serve yips.
he's got one of the best serves on tour now. Probably
Yep.
it's I mean at least the top three. I actually think he's the best serve on tour, but you could argue maybe that Hubie's is
Yeah.
better.
Yep.
I think it's arguable, um, but yeah, it's but unfortunately he just yeah like
It doesn't matter because in big moments he just freezes. And like my
yeah
take here, and like this in this tournament, apparently the Fritz match was the big moment. Like if he got through that, there's no way I think he beats Sinner, or he probably beats Tiafoe just because his tennis is better, but there's no way he gets past Sinner.
no because he just frees mentally like
Right.
it like
Like
he can have
if
every advantage and it just doesn't matter like it's
exactly. And if Zverev played his absolute best tennis, I still don't think he beats Sinner. Just because if it got really tight late in the
he wouldn't be
third
able to play his
fourth
best tennis.
set,
He wouldn't.
he'd
But
freeze.
but he wouldn't be able to play his best tennis. Like if
That's
he plays
true.
his best tennis, maybe, but he's not gonna be able to because he's gonna mentally freeze.
Right.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, yeah, it's really unfortunate because
Mm-hmm.
You know,
It
again,
is.
like without, and then other than that, like Medvedev's just weird. Like Medvedev, I guess, like, and he's Russian. Like nobody wants to market a Russian right now.
Right.
He's just a political nightmare. Like
Exactly.
it's
It's that
stupid, but
simple. It's that simple.
yeah, like
And he's
so
hard to
it's
market because of his eccentric personality, the weird octopus game. Like again, it's a tennis enthusiast kind of game,
I
right?
actually think I actually think his tennis game is marketable. I think you could market his tennis game with all the goofy, like, because like he does like the way he plays so far back and makes like the crazy angled shots and like, I think you could market that. Like, I think that's marketable. I think it's just like his eccentric personality is scary because he's got a very different personality. And the fact that he's Russian, I think is just really hard to like market as anything but a heel. Right, anything but a heel, a villain, right? Like it's just like
And it's a shame because
it's
I actually think he's a good guy. Like I actually think all the
by all accounts, he's one of the best guys on the tour. You know what I mean? By all
yeah.
accounts, he's one of the best guys. Like he's a little
Right.
weird during matches, but like there's never been any issues with him off the court,
No, never. Never.
right? It's just he's just got a weird personality during matches,
Right. Well, same with
which I
Rublev, same with Kachanov, right? They're all really good guys and like no problems off the court
yeah,
for any of them.
yeah,
It's just yeah, besides Alcaraz, I think all these other guys we like because we're tennis fans. But if we weren't tennis fans, I think it would be hard to gravitate towards any of them. I think that's
yeah.
the main thing. And like that's why people gravitate towards the Tiafos and the Curious of the world. But unfortunately, that doesn't win tennis matches.
Well, Kyrgios was the villain, right? Kyrgios marketed himself as a villain, and like he went all out to make himself the villain.
Right.
Right, like Kyrgios embraced that villain personality and took that on.
He's still doing it as a commentator.
He's still doing it as a commentator. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So like you can market yourself as a villain and be somebody who gets a lot of fans and is a highly likable player as a villain. Like you can do that. It's just that for Zverev, like he doesn't embrace the villain side either. Like he
No.
then like tries to turn around and like act like he's a good guy.
Right. It's good point.
And it just looks really fake. Like
It does. Yeah. It's true. It's true.
um
And then he doesn't have the
I
mental capacity to back up the villain stance either, right? Like,
right, and then he does right, and then he doesn't have the mental personality to win. So nobody wants to root for a guy who's a loser,
right.
right? Like it's not like it's yeah, like yeah.
Yeah. We
So
gotta talk a little bit about Tiafo.
yeah,
Um,
good run, good run. I mean, I think
good
he's
run.
playing a lot better. I mean, we'll see, right? We'll see how much this was playing in America versus how much this is like true improvement. I think he's one of the guys to watch on this Asian swing. I think to see like how does he back up this America run
How do you compare
because
it to the 22 US semi run?
well, I'm not. Oh, well, I'm not even saying. I'm saying how much better he played during this whole U.S. Open swing versus the rest of the year.
Okay.
Right on. That's what I want to see him. I want to see him back up what was a very good summer.
I agree. I want to see a good performance in Shanghai.
Like he's
Like
one of my
quarters.
if there's a few storylines. I'm glad you brought it up because there's a few storylines I wanted to hit on for the rest of the year. And in
Yep.
my mind, one of those storylines is Tiafoe.
Okay.
Like A, can he back it up in terms of consistency over now a bigger period of time? And B, can he do it outside of America? Where the fans aren't going to be supporting him as much, yeah.
From just what I saw though, at especially the Shelton, Popyrin, and Dimitrov matches, I liked what I saw, and I'm leaning towards this being not just a blip because he got fan support and high energy crowds. I think I actually think it's translatable because I liked his focus. I liked the way he kind of regrouped between points. I think he gave in physically at the end against Fritz late in the fifth set. I think he had like a physical dip and like he just couldn't overcome that. I I
I
felt.
think it might have been more of just a complete choke job. Like he said, like he actually said at the one changeover during the fifth, like my whole body's tight,
Okay.
which to me indicates more choke job than physical. I
Yeah,
could be wrong,
probably.
but
I mean, he was like 2 games away, so he probably like realized how close he was, and
or it
then
could be like the mental physical, right? Like a la Alcaraz in the
yeah,
French against Djokovic, right? Where
probably.
like it was like, you
Yeah.
know,
But for like 3 of those rounds, I really liked his focus. I know how it sounds so simple, but like I didn't see it the entire year where he'd have kind of games or like stretches of games where he'd just be completely mentally out of it and lose points in spurts because he just wasn't focused. But like I liked how he regrouped after points he lost, went to the towel, kind of regrouped quickly, and there were no like spurts where he was losing points in bunches like he was earlier this year.
yes, the mental focus seems to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go back. I mean, I'm looking at this like I looked at his like, but I mean, okay, so this is since Wimbledon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even Wimbledon, he beat Arnaldi and Koric at Wimbledon. So like, okay, so he beat Karatsev in 3 sets, lost to Yoshi second round of it or quarters of Atlanta, second match.
Mm-hmm.
Beat Galan in Washington. He goes and he beats Galan in 3, Kovacevic in
That
3,
yeah.
Rublev in 2, and then loses 4-4 to Korda. He didn't play bad against Korda. Korda played a great match. I remember watching that match, but you know, like okay, decent, but not like special.
Mm-hmm.
Loses first round of Canada to Bilo, gets killed.
Mm-hmm.
Goes to Cincy and makes the final, beats Fokina, Musetti, which doesn't count because it was hard court. Lehecka had an ugly match, and what I thought was not a great match. Third set tiebreak. Um, Hubie retired.
Yeah.
Rooney got a let cleared.
Yep.
And then
Yeah,
he
you
lost
gotta
to
like
Sinner in the
Cliff for sure.
final. Beat Kovacevic. Shevchenko doesn't count. Shelton, who's been struggling mightily in 5. Popyrin, who I actually think is pretty overrated in 4. And Dimitrov, who clearly the entire match was injured. He said after the press conference after the match, he still wasn't fully recovered from the injury to start with, and it was just getting worse and worse each round.
You sound
And
like
I
me.
thought watching the match, I mean, I remember we were texting about it during the match. I was like, and part of it was because I had a bet on Dimitrov, but like a lot of it was that I really did feel like Dimitrov just I thought he just wasn't awake at first, but the what he said when he said that after the match that the injury was bugging him the whole match and the whole tournament made a lot of sense. Like I just don't know, like listing out all those match results. That's why I want to see him back it up on the Asian swing because it's a lot of like it's a lot of wins. He did pick up a lot of wins and he did way better than he'd done all year, but nothing like no signature in my mind, no signature impressive win. Like
Okay.
to me, beating Shelton's not that impressive. I know it's a slam and that Shelton plays better in slams, but I'm pretty low on Shelton.
But then again, American guys were controlling these balls way better than anyone else. And I actually thought Shelton's rally tolerance, even with these lively balls, was actually better than I've seen it in prior events.
Yeah, I mean, so there's another. I mean, yeah, and there's yeah. I agree with you, and
And I
but
actually
then
think that
like
that coming through that win from being down 2 sets to 1 is actually kind of impressive to me. Like I gave him some points for that. It's not a like a wow, like an amazing win, but like it was good.
yeah, like I said, I want to see what he brings to the Asian swing TFO because I think this is he's one of the guys I'll be watching because I'm not expecting him to do particularly well.
Okay. So you're going to be fading him from a betting perspective?
Probably, but we'll see what the line. I mean, you never know what the price is. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I've
It's interesting how they're going to be pricing his matches.
Yeah, and it's tough because there's so many guys, and it really depends on the opponent because like like I think him versus Thompson is still a really close match versus like Jordan Thompson.
Mm.
It's still a really close match. So is that fading him or is that not fading him?
Well, Thompson is continuously undervalued by the market, I feel.
Well, he is, right? I think Piranha posted the stats on it. I think
Yeah.
we were talking about the stats with Piranha, and I think he has been I think like if you bet Thompson in every match this year, you killed it. And I feel like I have been betting him a lot, and I feel like I've been making a lot of money
Yeah.
on him. We didn't get him through that one final, but
I know.
um, but I feel like he's been doing work for us this year.
He has. Him
Um,
and Tabilo, I feel have been the Bulldogs of the year.
yeah, I agree. I think the Bulldog of the year has got to be Thompson for me.
Yeah.
Because like Tabilo, he did cash that one big tournament, but then he's had some like letdowns too.
Right.
Like I feel like Thompson's been more like consistently. Like I've
He's
been
got a few
really
letdowns
impressed by
too.
Thompson. What?
He's got a few letdowns too.
Thompson?
Yeah.
I don't know. I disagree with that. I just think like Thompson on a slow court is still not a thing. Right? Like so if you take out like the slow court, like if you take out the slow courts, I think it's been pretty good. Like what's been bad from Thompson this year on something that's not a
Den
on
Bosch
something that's a
losing to Raonic. That was a bad one.
honestly, from like a betting perspective and from a betting perspective and from like a pre-match expectation perspective, maybe. But from what I heard, Raonic just played out of his mind that match.
Yeah, I think he served like, was that the match he served like what, 35, 40 aces?
No, that was Nori
Oh,
when he
okay.
served 51 and set the
Yeah.
record. But 30% of his service points against Thompson were aces. Like if you get ace 30% of the points, it's really hard to win.
It is. I
I mean,
mean,
you'd like to see him
thinking
not lose 4-3. I get it. I hear
thinking about
you.
Thompson, we backed him against Monfils in Miami, and that didn't go very well in the match we went to.
That's true. He lost in three, but yeah, I agree. Like
Shang.
that wasn't.
He lost to Shang and Indian Wells. That was poor.
Well, that's a slow court. Anything that's a slow court,
I mean,
that's the
but
thing,
he
right?
won his one title on the slow court in Los Cabos, beating Zverev and Rude.
Yeah, true. Maybe it's just clay. Maybe it's just clay. You might be right. Maybe so. Then maybe we can take fair game on the loss to Shang, but the Indian Wells Miami that Sunshine double was bad. Honestly, after Los Cabos, the whole next 4 months was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because after Los Cabos, he lost first round to Acapulco, first round to Indian Wells, first round to Miami.
Yeah,
Um,
we've been backing him quite a bit, and like I'm not complaining. He's been a good guy to back, and he's been
yeah.
undervalued in the market. So yeah,
I just mean as a tennis player, it's been really interesting to see how much better he's gotten in a
he's
way that
gotten
like
better.
hasn't been particularly obvious. Like I feel like he's just like marginally improved everything he does, and he's just making a few more balls, and like he's
And
moved up. I
he's
mean,
able to mask his lack of firepower better than he used to.
yeah,
And I think he's also better at using that weird defense that he has to transition into the net where he's very strong.
I
And I think
agree,
that's been a
but I just think
very
it's amazing. Like for a guy who like for a guy who's 30 and really like floated around as like a borderline, when he was playing well, he'd be up on the ATP tour. Then he wouldn't be playing well. He'd be playing on the Challenger tour for a while.
Mhm.
For a guy who was like floating between those two levels to come up and since the beginning of 23 and now be in the top 30 in the world or close, he's 30. I think he's 29th right now or something.
Yeah.
To come up and be in the top 30 in the world is like pretty impressive, man.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Like, so
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling if Thompson played Tiafoe at in Shanghai, you'd probably get like a plus 200 on Thompson. And in that case, I'm hammering it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be amazed if you got that, but like I have those guys on the same plane. Like I have those guys like roughly the same level right now. Those two.
I'm a
Like,
little bit more optimistic on Tiafoe, I feel, than you are, but not much. Like I'm still probably going to be fading Tiafoe going forward, but
yeah,
I'm
I
a little
think
bit
he's like
more
a
optimistic he's going to do well.
yeah. Yeah, I just like I said, I think there's to me it's like the classic for Tiafoe, like a lot of wins and a lot of like spotlight. You know what I mean? So I just feel like it's a classic opportunity to hype.
So let's transition to Popyrin then, who's probably another guy in that boat, right? In your eyes?
Yeah, I don't really. My opinion of Popper had, I mean, hasn't changed much. Like I think I was higher on him than generally people were throughout the beginning, the first half of
Yeah.
this year. But I don't think I don't think he's magic. I don't think he's that much better than he was before this year, or not before this year. I don't think he's that much better than he was 4 months ago. Like I think he's just this guy that uh, and my take on Popper is like I think he's basically an all quarter, and I think he's gonna have really good matches, and he's gonna have really good weeks, and he's
Hmm.
gonna have really bad matches. He's gonna have really bad weeks, kind of like a Karatsev or a Koric in that way. Maybe I mean I think he'll be a little
Better
more
though.
steady than
He's
those
better than
guys.
those guys.
Yeah, he is. He is. I don't disagree, Manny, but I'm saying like in terms of like archetype, right? Like he'll be like like he's gonna have some good weeks, some big wins, and he's gonna have some like
All right, let me ask
WTF
you this.
moments.
Because of this upside that he has, do you think he's a good guy to bet futures on? Just because like
Probably, yeah.
we've
Probably,
seen that he has the potential to win a Masters 1000, right? If he puts it together for a week.
probably, yeah. He probably becomes, you're right, he probably becomes a good guy to look to back to win tournaments because like he also has the type of game that can beat people. Right? Like you're not backing like, and I know this guy's a way worse player, but you're not backing like I want to try to actually find a better guy than the guy I was thinking of. Like
Well, Baez is a contrast, but he's still good enough to win tournaments.
But Baez is, I think Baez is significantly better than Popyrin. Baez on clay, I think is significantly better than Popyrin on any surface, personally.
Oof.
And Baez is if it's a weaker field, right? Like if it's a field without like
I
top
think,
10
yeah, I think
guys.
relative to the field he is, but like I don't know. Like if Popperin played Baez on the clay court, I'd probably take Baez, but like anywhere else. But
Well, yeah, because
it's
Baez can only play on clay court, right? Like if you're talking about Baez, like it's if you're talking about Baez, you're only talking about Baez on clay because Baez on
yeah.
hard is like a borderline challenger player.
Yeah, but I
Um,
still think if Popperin plays well, like he could beat Baez on the clay court.
well, no, but that's the whole point, right? Like that's exactly the point, man. He's like he has the game to beat almost anybody on a clay court or on any court, right? Like he has the game to beat almost anybody on most courts. Like anybody outside the top five, right? Like if he's playing really well. But he's also could like slop it up and be sloppier and lose matches he shouldn't lose. And we saw that in Davis Cup, right? Who did he get beat by in Davis Cup this week?
Ugo Umber.
I guess that's not terrible, but but he lost badly. It wasn't a close match, right? It was like,
Yeah. It was like 3-3.
yeah.
But
So
so does he become like a dog or pass guy or
yeah, I think he's on like the top end, like higher up on like I think he's that archetype again, but like he's a little higher up than like a Mar. Like I'd put him above a Marzon or a Mio Kecmanovic, but I think he's in that like archetype of dog or pass kind of guys.
all right,
Maybe like a Cobolli.
I'm higher on Popperin than you are.
What
I
about Popper versus Cobolli? That's a guy who I think he's actually pretty similar to.
on clay, Cobolli on hard Popperin. pretty clear to
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Yeah. Um,
I don't particularly think Popyrin's. I think Popyrin's pretty close to an all quarter. I don't really see like again. I'll go back to like he won Umag.
Mog.
He won Umag and made a Rome semi last year, or a Rome quarter last year. Like it's not like he can't. You know what I mean? I think he's capable of playing on any surface.
Yeah,
Popyrin.
beat Rublev in Monte Carlo. You're right. But I think Cobolli's consistency on clay is going to be higher in general.
Okay, that makes
Because
sense. That
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I mean,
I
like
was just trying to find a guy who I think of as like overall as a tennis player as like a similar level, and I think that's a guy I would put. I think I kind of put him in that range.
okay. I think his confidence, like I'm a big mental guy, right? And I think like his belief is gonna skyrocket from a win versus Djokovic at the US Open and winning a Masters 1000. Like I think that could translate to having some more consistent results.
I see. I think that's the thing, right? Like you've got a you've got a. So for Popper, and the two things that we're really talking about are a win over a Djokovic who's been subpar all year. Impressive mental match from Popperin to impressive mental match from Popperin to close it out, right? Like impressive from that perspective to have the
Yep.
guts to close it out because we see 80% of the tour doesn't. But especially after being up 2 breaks and then losing a break, getting the insurance break and then giving one back, like easily could have been he easily could have gone full
But
choke.
that's my point. Like the mental maturity that he's shown recently is impressive. And like I would argue that it's 90% of the tour that doesn't get through that. And Djokovic claws his way back.
Okay. Yeah, I
Right?
mean maybe you know what I mean it's a high
Like
percentage,
we
but I
saw
was making
Musetti and Cerundolo crumble, right? And they're
I
probably
was yeah I was I mean I didn't go through and think about how many guys wouldn't crumble in that spot, you know what I mean? But yeah, we
I
agree
know,
it's
but
it's,
a
it's
lot of guys don't
a
get
lot. It's the vast majority of the tour, right? Is it 80? Is it 90? Like
right.
it's yeah I
And for Popperin to not be in that group tells me a lot about him, about his
But like he had been very competitive with Djokovic, right? He took a set from Djokovic at least twice. Two others. He took a set from
at
Djokovic
both
at Wimbledon,
slams. Yeah.
and he took a set from at the Australian Open. So like he wasn't that far away. Like is he? Like I don't think he's suddenly become a much better tennis player. Maybe there'll be a mental boost. I don't know. I'm not. I think this is like I think it's I think he's better than what anybody was saying about him when people were down on him, and I think he's not as good now as his results this SummerSlam. You know
All
what I
right.
mean?
Popperin or Corda
Oh, quarter easily,
in a big
easily
match?
overall. What?
Okay, overall, yes, but if they play in a big like US Open round of 16 match, where are you
That's a
back?
lot tougher. That's a lot tougher.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Like the again, we're like that's what I'm saying. Like the up, like the week, even the weekly upside with Popperin is higher, but the floor is a lot lower, right? Like the in week and the in game. I think the like he'll be high upside, low floor.
Okay. I think his floor has risen a little bit and his ceiling has risen a little bit. That's my take on him. Just a little bit, not much,
Okay.
but the ceiling, the floor has risen.
No, but if you're putting him, if you think overall he's in court, it's like will he like? I guess will he have a better record than Corda like next year or in the next 52 weeks? Will he have a better record than Sebastian Corda?
Probably not. You're probably
Yeah.
right.
Will he have a
But
better record than Jordan Thompson on hard courts?
yes.
Okay. All right. I would go with no and no.
Okay.
Yeah, I would take Thompson for record over Popper next year. Not points, just pure record. Because I do think like Popper again, week to week, the upside's so much
I
higher.
could do a dinner bet on that one. I like that.
All right, so win loss record on hard courts, Popper versus Thompson.
Nice, nice.
All
Okay.
right, we
I
got
like
one.
it. I like that. It's good. Who else do we want to talk about? Um, Fritz. We gotta talk about Taylor Fritz.
Yeah, because he made the final.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought like I know you loved his press conference. I didn't think it was that amazing. I did think it was interesting when he said like he didn't he like made the final and didn't play out of his mind. Which is true, right? Like it's another one, man, where like this draw just completely fell apart. Like I think we bet him to make the quarters at like what was it, 3-1?
Yeah, that was GBM.
That was a GBM bet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like and it wasn't because we particularly loved Fritz. It was because
It was by default based on the guys in his section.
yeah, exactly. Like it's just yeah. And then I mean, honestly, like he's not a better player than Zverev. Like he's just not. Like
No, Zverev froze mentally. I lost like 6 units on that match.
yeah, like
Pissed off.
and yeah, and he just it was just like I was so happy watching that because I wanted to see Fritz win that so badly because I just think Fritz is so much more likable than Zverev.
I don't think Fritz is necessarily, I mean, he's kind of likable. He's growing on me just because of like I just appreciate and like how lack of talent, like he lacks in talent in so many ways, yet he's found a way to make a great career out of himself, you know? Like he's
Yeah,
become a great tennis player, great ball striker, and I think he's so devoted to his craft and he's so devoted like as a tennis professional. Like I think it's very commendable. Like
I
he
agree.
truly believes that he can win a slam. Like he
Yeah,
really believes that and he believes that he could be like won the world. Like I think he thinks his ceiling is higher than like any tennis pundit out there.
yeah,
I appreciate
yeah.
that. Like that stubbornness is like commendable in a way.
It's also like if you want to get there, it's how you have to feel, right? Like
Right. Right. But he does something about it and he works exceptionally hard. Like he lives and breathes tennis. Taylor Fritz.
yeah, yeah, and I think he's yeah, I just think he's like and he's he doesn't complain. He doesn't do anything
Oh.
like he doesn't do anything unlikable. He's a little bit stiff,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he's I don't know. I like him. Like I think he
And I thought the press conference was insightful. You didn't think so? Like I don't see
moderately
many
like
tennis players like commenting on like, oh, I actually felt like I didn't play that well, yet this is, how far I got. Like
I think
I
that
don't
was a very interesting comment. I think that particular comment was interesting.
okay.
Um I think
I don't
it
feel like
helps that he's a native English speaker, so he's like very good at English words.
but I don't feel like a lot of guys are as reflective in their press conference as he was. Even like there are a lot of foreign guys that speak English pretty well.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. Like I don't unfortunately I'm not fluent in any other languages. So
Mhm.
it'd be interesting to listen to like an Alcaraz press conference in Spanish and see if he's more reflective. Just because, like, like it's not even like I don't know. It's not like is he fluent on a basic level. It's like understanding like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like having the comfort with like saying things and knowing like is that controversial or not. Like did I say that with the right way? Like, but yeah, I don't think he's. I thought. I mean, but I did think the comment on not playing that well in Silvio Slam final was interesting. But then again, like, who did he beat outside of like Zverev, who choked it away to him? Like
Yeah, beating Tiafoe in a slam finals. It's probably the easiest semifinal you're gonna
slam
get.
semi, you're gonna get, yeah.
And
I mean, he
honestly,
beat
he probably
Berrettini in
doesn't
round
win
two, which
that.
was a hyped match, but
Yeah, he
I
probably
mean,
honestly doesn't win that if Tiafoe doesn't freeze mentally or physically, whatever you want to call it.
Fritz, yeah, probably. I
Right.
thought it was still a very competitive match even before Tiafoe froze. I'm not going to say he doesn't win it, but I'll say he's much like he's well below
Yeah.
50% likely to win. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I thought the line there was totally off. I mean, I didn't cash, but I thought plus 240 was ridiculous in that
I
kind
think
of
in
situation.
hindsight, you were right. I can understand it. I
To
think
me,
that
that's like a Popyrin versus Cobolli kind, or Popyrin versus Korda kind of match. Who do you take in that spot? Whereas like Tiafoe is Popyrin, who's the worst player, and Fritz is Korda in that spot. Going back to our previous discussion.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, this is where it's very obvious, right? That I'm not as high on Tiafoe as you are, right? Like, because I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't. I had a bet on Tiafoe, so clearly I agreed at
Mhm.
some level with that, but I didn't think it was ridiculous. I mean, given how much more steady Fritz is, both mentally and physically, like there was never going to be a mental. There might have been a nerves from Fritz that could have been a problem. Like I think that was the concern with Fritz was nerves, but there was never going to be like a brain dead gap like you sometimes get with TFO. You know?
Yeah, I felt like if that was the Delray Beach final, then that was the appropriate line. But in a U.S. Open
Well, so
semi,
that's the whole question, right? The whole that. So I pretty much agree with you. I pretty much agree with you. I think. I mean, obviously, in a best of three, it wouldn't be that wide of a line, but that was the question, right? Is how much are you giving TFO an advantage for being at Ash? And I can see the argument for giving him a massive advantage because I think he's a different player in Arthur Ashe Stadium,
yeah,
and that's why again I want to see what he does when he's not in an energetic stadium. I want to see what he does on court three in the middle of the day in like Zhuhai or whatever the next tournament is, like
Hangzhou.
Hangzhou. And I want to see in Hangzhou
Yeah,
what he does. Like, I think that is because he's not at the level yet where he's going to be like a slam only guy. Like he hasn't earned that yet. Like
I,
he's not a big three.
what he's earned is not the question; it's what he thinks.
Right,
I mean,
right,
Michelle
right,
Obama went to watch one of his slam semifinals. I mean, that's enough to make you a slam only guy. I mean,
right. I mean, really, right?
Americans
Like
have hyped him
that's the
up to be this like this god.
right, and that's the question, right? Is like, is he going to go back to you know to losing to clowns again?
I know, exactly.
So,
It's very
I mean,
possible.
look, like honestly, I think he's a guy. Like, I think he's a likable guy. Like, there's nothing wrong with Tiafo. Like, I don't think there's anything and like I don't have any hatred towards anything Tiafo does. I think he's got a very interesting story growing up poor. I think it's I think it's
I thought
I
the
don't have
clown
any.
comment was pretty bad though.
I thought
That
the
was,
clown comment was pretty disrespectful. I agree. Um, but it's also the first time I've seen him do something like. Actually, it's not the first time I've seen him do something disrespectful. So I don't know.
I
But
don't
I
think
think
the
he has
other
like a
players though in the locker room view it that way. I think they kind of view that he was just kind of like joking. Like they don't really the players in the locker room don't really take him seriously. They just kind of look at him as this like jokester, fun dude, you know? So I
yeah,
don't think
probably.
they
Yeah,
necessarily
I don't.
they took
I
that it
haven't read
feels
enough
like
to
everyone
know
took
what
that with a
guys
grain of
think.
salt.
Like what?
It feels like everyone took that comment with a grain of salt. I
Yeah,
think
it feels
more the
like
media
yeah,
is
I don't think he
more of
got
it.
a whole lot. Yeah, I also don't know how much I don't know, man. Like, when's the last time a player's made a comment in the media that got like the whole tour angry?
Yeah, it never happens. Not
You know what
intended.
I mean? Like these guys, like they don't want to make enemies. Like honestly, it's a weird thing, right? They all need each other. Like they're all individual contractors, but yet they all need each other at the same time. Like they need practice partners. If they're gonna play doubles, they need doubles partners. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to
they don't want to
alienate
make a bunch of
themselves. It's true.
what?
They don't want to alienate themselves. I hear you.
Yeah. And even
Yeah.
from a fun perspective, right? Like you're like those are your colleagues. Like if you're traveling around the world, so like if you alienate your job is to travel around the world. Like if you alienate yourself from your colleagues, like that's a really boring life.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
I mean,
They
there's a few players who do it, so clearly it's a thing. Like there's a few players who are pretty alienated, but it's not too many. I feel like.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but good tournament from Taylor Fritz. I mean, he, made the most of his draw and for how hard he works and what he puts into his game, I have to say he deserves it. So,
yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else to transition to who's interesting to talk about. Um, it's really tough. It's really tough. There's not a whole
I mean,
lot.
Dimitrov and Demonor, they both made quarters, but like they were both kind of hurt, so it's like
Yeah,
I
I mean, I
can't,
don't I don't
can't
think this is
really
a yeah.
make too much of their runs, honestly. I guess we could
I
talk
mean,
about
I actually think so. I'm
Draper.
gonna put another guy out there too with Draper. Like, I don't know how impressive Draper's one run was either. Like
So
again, like
who did he
he didn't
beat?
beat anybody.
He beat Machac. He beat
He beat Machac. He beat some Clay, one of the Clay South American guys, maybe Cobolli or something.
no Fritz beat Carabelli. Uh
Navoni? I feel like Draper beat one of like the Clay dudes.
no, Draper lost to Evan.
Tomasana?
Played that 5.5 hour match. That pissed me off. He beat Demonor, Van de Zandschulp, and Diaz Acosta.
That's what I was thinking of. Diaz Acosta. I told you, Argentinian clay court. They're all
Yeah.
the same. In the U.S. Open, they're all the same. Like
They're
come
all
this
the
part of the
same
season,
at
like they
the
don't matter. It doesn't matter. They're all gonna lose. Like when they once they come up against a competent opponent.
Baez, Coria, Diaz Acosta.
Yeah,
Just,
like
just cross their names off.
yeah.
Well, Cerundolo won the Davis Cup today and beat Jack Draper.
Did he really?
Yeah, he
I did
did.
not see
Impressive
that.
match. I was shocked that he came through that.
Cool. That's a good hard court win for Cerundolo, who I
Very good
always bash
hardcore
on
win.
hard court, but that's a
Six and
very good hard
six.
court win.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna go the other way with it and say how much of that is Draper being exhausted after a U.S. Open finals run.
After playing all straight setters, he didn't play a single 4-set match.
He still had to play tennis 5 times, and he had to deal with the mental. I mean, like, look, he was. I mean, he was gassed at the like. He, I get. I mean, he must have been sick. He must have. I mean, he must have been sick or had anxiety or something because like he was like sweating profusely at like 4-3 in the first set. That can't be gassed. Like that's got to be there was something wrong. Like again, like I'm gonna
Well, the
go with the
rallies
stress
against
theory again.
Sinner were
It's
more
stress,
physical than any other match he played, right? Like
but four
Mahawk
three in the
missed
first
every
set, and you're like sweating profusely.
yeah, because Sinner wouldn't miss.
I mean, you still. I mean, I still can't believe he had that little gas in the tank. Like,
I
I think
agree.
I'm going with the stress theory. I'm going with the same thing as Alcaraz, just anxiety ish. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, he had a really, really easy draw. Honestly, Zhang wasn't healthy. Then Diaz Acosta, as you said, doesn't really count. Then VDZ coming off the Alcaraz match, and VDZ was awful prior to that match. So,
I just think that was he just like a blip that VDZ played well. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's
right,
more like like sometimes these guys like occasionally these guys could come out and play incredibly well. Like, remember Dan Evans won Washington last year,
right, yeah.
right? Like, and that was a full week. But like these guys sometimes come out and play like
It's like
in
that
that
one
week,
day I
Dan
beat
Evans
you
played
six
like
love.
top 10 tennis. And then he just like, like that was it. Like, these
Yeah,
guys, like, I mean, they're all pro tennis players for a reason, right? Like they have skills. Like if they
right.
can put it all together, they're all these guys, most of these guys on
Yeah.
the tour have some sort of skills. So the point is that I don't think beating VDZ is very impressive. Beating Machac not particularly impressive.
Well,
Demoner was
Mahawk played
hurt.
terribly. He missed like
Yeah, Machac. Yeah,
like
Machac is a good win, but Machac didn't play well that
oh,
match.
terrible, awful, awful. I mean, he missed like every third ball in the rally. He would just like spray wide or spray long. Like he was just way too aggressive in that match. Like he had no
Yeah.
patience for some reason. Just like I don't know what the hell Mahawk was doing. And then Demonor obviously wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
So
So it's not like yeah, it was a great draw for him. Still sad. I think I told you I had 100-1 on Draper to make the finals. And like despite him not having a particularly good win, just based on the draw,
because I
like
actually
he
think if Medvedev was there in the semi, he would be live to win that.
depends on the mental status, man. Like he's not live to beat anybody if he was that stressed out. Or if if he was vomiting by the second set, like
But I have to think that the stress has to do with how well Sinner was playing or striking the ball. Like you just know that you're not going to be able to like
maybe I don't know that. But Sinner also didn't play like I didn't think he played that. Like he played. I mean, he won the tournament. Sinner played very good tennis. But
Yeah.
I didn't think he was playing like out of this world. You know what I mean? Like none of Sinner's matches were like, oh my god, this is a classic performance.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Um,
Physicality is still a problem with him. And whether it's like physical or mental, like
no, it doesn't. It still is a problem. I agree. It
a
doesn't.
problem.
It doesn't really change the result very much. I agree. I agree. I'm not. I'm stating a reason. I'm not giving an excuse for it. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. Like, it still is a problem.
I
Yeah.
mean, he says he was mentally exhausted after Stuttgart.
Well, right. Like
And that
that's my
carried
point.
into
Like,
Queens and Wimbledon.
well, that's kind of my point, right? And like, if he was mentally exhausted for Davis Cup after this run of the U.S. Open, like, like
And
that's
he didn't
not
play
top
the
level
first
stuff.
tie. Like he this is a week later, right? Today was Friday,
Right.
and he played the semi
Yeah.
last Friday. So
Full
it's
week.
a
Full week.
full week going back to
Yeah.
your home country. They were playing in Manchester.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it just shows that he can't put back to back weeks together,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If he has a good result, like he beat Alcaraz in Queens, right? And then couldn't back it up at Wimbledon.
Well, okay. And if you want to even go further than that, like Acapulco, he made the semi, and then he lost to O'Connell in the first round of Indian Wells. Adelaide, he made the final. He lost to Paul, which is not terrible, but he lost to Tommy. But he had good results against Tommy, I think. Like, I think the general view of that was a pretty live, maybe not 50-50, but close to it match.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who was favored for that match. It'd actually be interesting to go back and look. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I do. I agree. I think there still is an issue there with him.
Yeah, a player of his stature should not be losing to Chris O'Connell on the slow hard court.
I mean, a player who wants to call himself, or who the media has now put up. I mean, I think his ranking's actually now in the top. In the race, I think he's in the top 20.
Mm-hmm.
He is. He's now 20th in the race to Turin. So, oh no, he's 20th in the overall rankings. He's higher. He's got to be higher in the race to Turin, I would think. Maybe no.
He's 20 in the world.
Yeah, he's 20 in the world, 18 in the race to Turin. He won't make Turin, but he's but yeah, for a guy who's like theoretically a top 20 player, like that's not good.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to play two good tournaments of tennis in a row.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the next thing I want to see from Draper. Can he put two like, semifinal and final back-to-back weeks? Like that's really the next step for him.
yeah,
But
yep,
he's another guy I'm really curious to see in this like Asian swing. Really curious. And I feel like the market is going to overvalue him again. Similar to Tiafoe.
yeah. I'm less. I think I'm less on that. Like, I'm not as excited to see what he does. Like, he's not like one of my key guys to watch. There's guys who I'm much more interested in. Like I said, Tiafoe and Popyrin are much more on my much higher on my list of guys who I'm curious to see how they do.
Okay. Any other guys that you're kind
I
of
mean,
curious?
so I guess in terms of like you, I mean, I guess like I'm trying to think. I was trying to think if there's anything else to talk about in terms of like what did happen before we move into like the what
Mhm.
will happen. They're the kind of like the what am I looking out for? Um, I
It's
don't
not
think there's
much,
really much of
honestly.
anything interesting. What?
It's not much.
Yeah, we talked a little, Matt. I mean, Kachanov losing to Dan Evans is, really bad season for Kachanov.
Yep.
Like really bad season. I
Yeah.
don't know what's up there, but really, really bad season. Oh, I mean, a guy who had a really good run. Didn't beat Zverev, but Nakashima has come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your favorite guy.
Yeah, I can't really fade him anymore like I used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's been pretty good.
I mean, I think he's been really good relative to expectation.
I agree.
For a guy who I thought probably wouldn't, who I thought might be like top 80 to 100 or something. I thought he'd be better because I think his break point conversion percentage last year was like terrible, and that's part of why he had such a bad year. So I thought that would improve just by like,
Yeah, he's back
by
to
variant.
40 in the world, and he's right near in the Greek Spore, Darderi, Berrettini, Struff, Lehecka area.
That's my point. I didn't think he'd be anywhere near there. Like I thought it would be better. Like I thought he'd get himself back on the tour, but I didn't think it would be like he's a legitimate player. And
Yeah,
he's somebody who could win at 250.
yeah,
Like, like a week 250 he's in contention for. Um
he is, and he really paid his dues. Like earlier this year, he was really grinding away on the challenger circuit, and he's played a lot of.
right, that's what I mean. Yeah.
How many matches has he played this year? It's got to be like in the 80s or 90s, or
I'll look it up for you. Whatever reason, tennis abstract has decided to be slow. Um, this year he is. Well, give me stats per year. Sorry, I can look it up. Across all levels, he is. Yeah, you're right. 54 and 25, ton of
a
matches.
lot of matches.
A
A
lot
lot.
of matches.
I mean, I like, I go through the betting lines every day. Like I see him literally like every week he's playing somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
And credit to him, like he's really kind of worked on his game and, like grinded away just to, get his ranking up and then, build some confidence. And yeah, great run in Cincinnati, beating what's Fritz and Feast.
yeah.
And he lost to Rublev in Canada and Cincinnati.
No, I mean, he's had a really good year to get his ranking up. I mean, so I was looking at this, it's pretty fascinating. He's taken off the week before each slam, but other than that, he's only taken off like a few weeks all year. And it's
Yep.
only been like travel weeks. Like after Houston, he took off a week because he had to travel to Europe. So like it seems like he takes off like the travel weeks and
Mhm.
the week before slams. But yeah, to your point, I'd rather the week he's playing.
Yep.
He gets his tennis in. He gets his exercise in.
He does. He does. I mean, I want to see the difference in stats from last year to this year. Because I'm sure he's breaking at a higher percentage.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this year, he's holding at 87.7%. Last year, he was holding at 84.8%. This year, he's winning 68% of serve points won. Last year, 66.7. So it's like basically 2 percentage points, which is a lot. Then he's breaking 19.4% this year, which isn't good, but better than last year, which was 17%. And his return points won is up a full percentage point as well. So like all the stats are definitely up. And his
Well, yeah, right.
first
That's how you go from 21 and 26 to 54 and 25, right?
yep.
But what's impressive is that the level of competition is much higher too.
Mm-hmm. He
Yeah, it's been a
demolished
really
all the
good.
room. Yeah. I mean, but then once he starts playing like guys in the top 10, like he just has no chance.
Yeah.
He has
So it's
no
fascinating.
shot.
Yeah, I agree. He's just not a good enough athlete. Like he's limited there.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating. I was looking. So I was going back and looking up the Paul Draper Australian Open match where it closed at, and it basically closed at pick.
Wow.
So to give you an idea of even before this whole year of where the market was on Draper, like
They were high.
yeah, but I mean like yeah, but again, like if you're Draper and we're calling you the level of Tommy Paul, who's the top 15, 20 level player, like gotta be able to play 2 weeks in a row, buddy.
You certainly.
Like,
But that's what I'm
like
saying. I think that going into the Asian swing, they're going to even rank Draper higher. They're going to even like put his prices even shorter
betting markets. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You're probably right. You're
because he
probably
made
right.
the semis. So like, oh, that's a great result on a hard court slam. Like
You're
he's
probably right.
playing
You're
better.
probably right. I think this is
I think
a
he's fadable.
we'll see. I mean, if he's priced, I actually think pricing him like near Tommy Paul is probably pretty right. Like maybe not maybe as a dog, but I wouldn't have him as a huge dog. Maybe like a minus 130 plus 110 if those two guys play or something in favor of
Okay.
Paul.
If
But
Draper
anyways,
played
yeah, yeah.
if Draper played Alcaraz on a quick hard court, where would you put the line?
Probably like minus 350 plus 250, maybe. Just initial first guess. Maybe a little, maybe even a little better. Maybe even a little less favored. Maybe I don't know, somewhere in that like I give him somewhere like between like a 30 and 40% chance to win. That's a pretty wide range. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, maybe even more. I mean, but the problem is the physicality piece. I go back and forth. It's a hard match. Like the problem is like there's a lot to think about there because
Mm-hmm.
like so just in terms of pure tennis game on a quick hard court, it's probably pretty close. Or not pretty close, but it's probably closer to the 40% chance, maybe like the 35 to 40% chance of Draper winning. But then you've got to factor in nerves and physicality, and then it probably starts to tank out. So
To me, it
I'd probably end
depends
up
on
somewhere.
what round they play. If they played in the second round or third round, I'd give Draper a better shot. If they play in the
And
semis or
Draper did beat him
final,
this year on grass, right? Draper
yeah,
beat him at Queens Club.
yeah.
So Draper does have a win. So clearly so maybe it's not really maybe it's just maybe it's not it's probably not player induced. So probably at a 250 and a best of three. Yeah, I mean it probably is closer. It probably is closer to like that. It
Mhm.
might even be like it might even be like below 2-1. I mean, it's probably Alcaraz is a favorite, but it's you know
Yeah. But if they played
probably
in
I
the
give Draper
semis
something
of
between
a
35 and
Masters
40%.
1000, then I give Alcaraz a way better shot. So it depends on a
Starts
lot
to
of
move at
things.
that
It
point.
also depends
Yeah,
on did he play a long three setter the round before,
yeah,
right? Is it how hot is it? Like there's a lot of factors in that matchup. I
yeah.
agree. So yeah. All right, let's take a quick break, and then I'm going to do some quick wordplay for some like lower rank guys, and kind of
Okay, yeah, I want to do that. And I want to go through stories for the rest of the year. So we'll do both those.
sounds good. Sounds good.
Cool. All right.
All right. Wait 1 second. All right, welcome back to the pod, everyone. So we're gonna do one of our favorite segments, a little wordplay. So we're gonna kind of blurt out a lower rank guy, and you can kind of give your thoughts in like a word or two. So let me give you the first one.
All
Uh,
right.
Berrettini.
Better on softer surfaces.
Okay. So is he similar to Musetti? I feel like they're
No,
very
because
different players.
I I think this is just more about like pure physicality, right? Like it's like it's just like hardcore is like not as good on your body, right? And for a guy who's like because of his build is a little bit more like brittle, like you've called him brittle, right? So for a guy who's more brittle, and not that he's really brittle just because his build is so massive, but like for a guy who's built like that, I think that at this stage in his career, I think the softer surfaces are better. Just not like pounding the knees on the hard court, you know?
I don't think like I don't feel like physicality was the problem against Fritz. And also like if you compare him with Musetti, like physicality is not a problem for Musetti. Like he's not brittle. Yet softer
True,
surfaces are better for
true.
him. And they have totally different games. So I don't really understand why Berrettini's game doesn't translate to hard court. Like, and he made a U.S. Open quarterfinal once upon a time.
True. I guess I'm just going based on the results. With the exception of the Phoenix Challenger, the last couple of years have been really. I mean, this like losing to Rune, okay, not terrible, not great. Beating Fritz played really well against Berrettini, but he also like Berrettini got destroyed in that match. And then beating Ramos doesn't really count for anything. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to. The sample
The
size is so limited. It's hard to say.
he's a guy
But
that I'm also very interested to see going into the Asian swing because I don't think I necessarily agree with you that he's just better on softer surfaces. I think it
it wouldn't be
helps
because of
preserve his
game,
body.
right? What? Yeah, it helps
It
to preserve the body, right?
helps preserve it, but it doesn't help him in an individual match. Whereas like
No, but in a tournament, right? Like in a tournament, by the time you're getting to the second, third round of a tournament,
okay, that's fair. Like I don't think he's gonna come to the second or third round and just like be fatigued or just like his body's gonna wear out on him. Like I think that's like a cumulative effect of like 3 months of playing on hard court.
yeah, it's just. I guess you might be right. You might be right. I don't know. It just seems that, yeah, it seems that like where he done really well is, well, for the most part, is clay altitude
Mm-hmm.
and grass,
Yeah,
which makes sense, right? Like clay altitude, you're still on a soft surface, but like you get that extra umph out of the serve because he needs that, right? He needs that serve. Like
he
he's got a
does.
top five serve, and he absolutely needs that serve.
Right. It's a really good forehand too. But
Yeah,
more when it's he has time.
yeah. I mean, he just needs. That might be what it is too. It might be that like actually fast courts are bad for him. When I say actually fast, because I mean like not just courts that are fast off the serve, but courts that are fast off of rallies.
Did he play Indian Wells this year?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
He did not. No. The only thing he played this year was the Phoenix Challenger that he won.
Hmm.
Or no, he didn't win it. He lost to Nuno in the finals, lost to Murray the first round of Miami on hard, lost first round of Cincy to Holger, and then lost second round to Fritz in US Open.
And he lost a set today to Alexander Blocks in Davis Cup.
Well,
So
that's kind of what I had seen that. I had seen that. It hasn't been a great day. Was that the first match he played in Davis Cup?
I think so.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I'm starting to wonder if it's like I don't know, for whatever, like he just needs that. You might be right. Maybe he needs the extra time to like, to
Set up his ground strokes.
just as, yeah, instead of his body, you know what I mean? Because like
Yeah.
he's he's not the best mover.
No. But he's pretty damn mentally strong.
I mean, like he's a guy who we love, right? Like I think we both love watching him. I think we both love him as a player. Just saying he's not,
Like he's one of those guys
the
that if he was in the situation that Popyrin was at the US Open, I think he gets over the hump. Like he's part
100%. Yeah, he's one of 10 guys on the tour who, not 10, but like, yeah, he's in that small group where I would actually believe in him if he got ahead of Djokovic or Nadal or Alcaraz or Sinner. You know what I mean? Like I
right,
wouldn't expect him to fall apart.
right, right. All right, why don't you give me one?
Hamad.
Treadmill or overrated. I mean, like I don't know, man. I just think I think he needs to lose like 25, 30 pounds to actually be a guy that could produce consistent results week in and week out. Like he's carrying too much weight.
Yeah, and I don't remember why, because honestly, it's so tough to follow like the Challenger Tour. But he did miss quite a bit of time. He missed from the Australian Open until Indian Wells. And then he missed another month after that. He came back and lost in Indian Wells and Phoenix, and then he lost, and then he missed another month. So it seems like he hasn't played enough this year either.
Well, that
But
might
it's been
have
a
to.
really disappointing year. I mean, so he ended last year ranked 110th in the world, and now he's down at 137th. Like, I think it's a
Very
really
disappointing.
disappointing year for him.
I mean, I remember Tidbits and MP9 in their preseason pod. They were like they bet him on way over on or under on the rankings. Like I think they projected him to be like in the top 70.
Right,
Oh,
right. I think like that was a very like intelligent looking prediction back then. Um,
right. But again, like I think the fact that he's been very injury prone and he's not been able to put a full calendar together is because like he's putting too much. He has too much weight on him.
yeah, I mean, could be. I'm not saying you're wrong. Like I mean, it's fascinating because if you look, um, I think he's only played. So where is he, Hamad? So Hamad is, um, he's 136th in the rankings, but he's only played 17 tournaments in the past 52 weeks,
Hmm.
which is a really small number. I mean, most of these guys are up in the 25 to 30 range. The average.
Yeah.
Like the average is probably in like the high 20s, but like you know that's a lot, right? Like that's the reason why he's not ranked higher. Like in terms of his actual tennis, he's actually playing top 100 tennis when he plays.
Well, just putting aside that one match against Medvedev at the Rome Masters, that's kind of the match with him this year that sticks out to me. Um,
Yeah,
like he played damn well and he outplayed Medvedev for big portions of that match, but he just ran out of gas,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I agree.
Um,
I might take that back. He really might not be a top 100 player right now, even if you take out the injuries. It's been really disappointing. He basically lost a year.
the Tsitsipas match at in Gstaad was very disappointing. Like he just couldn't win a big point. I think he was over 5 on break point in that match.
Yeah, I'm like,
Because mentally he's very immature too. He just has these many like temper tantrums and
yeah,
like
I've seen those. Yeah, I don't
just
disagree.
he's just immature from a physical perspective and a mental perspective and like you combine that with the talent and it's disappointing, but it adds up to 130 in the world,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So, and he can't even maintain his body on softer surfaces. So if you put together a calendar on hard court, it's going to be even worse.
yeah, yeah.
So very disappointing. Like get a treadmill, buddy. And he should start funding his own tennis career and stop relying on Novak. Maybe that would help him. Just get
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Let me give you one. Yoshi.
Really hard to predict. I mean, mentally hard to predict. Like that's the problem with Yoshi. Mentally inconsistent.
Mm-hmm. I think
Because
that's
like I've actually seen Yoshi be like a warrior too. I've seen him be like really freaking tough mentally. And then we've seen
what he
what
did
we
against
saw
Hubie.
against Hubie. And then that's not the first time we've seen that from him.
I
Where he
know.
like, you know what I mean? Like where like yeah, like he can be. It just makes him really tough to. It
I
makes him
mean,
like he's a guy who like I always want to bet his matches, and I can never find a line I want to bet besides the money line. Because like you can't take sets or games because he might just like not bother to show up for the second set.
Mm-hmm.
You know what he is? He's actually not the worst guy to take the first set line on.
He's also not the guy, if you don't want to back him, to bet the other guy with and lay games.
No, he's not the right guy to fade either. That's my point. Is like you can't fade him, you can't back him. He's like
No, but what I'm saying, if you want to fade him, then it's laying games is actually a good play against him.
and you
As a,
just hope he goes into like a really whiny state, maybe. But the problem is then sometimes he decides to fight really tough.
yeah, it's true. He's
You know what
mentally.
I mean? Like it's just like you just don't know what Yoshi you're gonna get. Like, and it's frustrating because like it's actually really cool. Like when he's in like fighter mode, it's really cool to watch him because he does like when he wants to, he like gets the most out of his talent. But then there's just matches where he just doesn't want to.
The match where I wanted him to go away and won against Thompson in Atlanta after the rain delay.
That's what I mean. Like yeah.
It seems to be he always whines when you don't back him, or when he
When you
whines
back
most of
him
the
and
way
then
when you
like
back
he
him.
decides he's gonna be like the toughest player in the world when you don't back. Yeah, it feels that way to me too. But yeah, I mean he got bailed by O'Connell like in Canada in the second set. Like
The U.S. Open one was also kind of like I mean, the Kecmanovic, he just tapped out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent way to describe Yoshi. All right, your turn.
Um I think. Arthur Rinderknech.
uh I'm gonna say just average. It's nothing like
Okay.
yeah, it's nothing special about him. Nothing like terrible about him. Like I think he competes relatively hard.
Well, I mean, no, I think he's got a pretty. I think you could say more than that, right? Like he's got a good serve, and when he's hitting the ball well, a good forehand,
Yeah, I think his backhand is
and he's
pathetic.
just like
I think he's
his
like
backhand is quite bad.
his backhand is really bad, and I think his like ability to close matches is pretty
His mental is pretty bad.
bad. Yeah, he's like he competes, but he doesn't have that it factor or like that ability to like rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and even that, I don't know. Sometimes he's a little bit weird, like
I just remember multiple matches where he's choked.
yeah, I
Uh,
do too. No, I do think he's a little bit of a choker. I agree with you on that. Yeah,
I mean, you can even consider the Rublev one kind of a choke. Like he just totally went away in the last three sets.
two of the sets. He tanked the third and the fourth. He did try the fifth.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. He had no chance, like physically. Yeah, I think there's physical issues there, getting through five sets against better players. There's but my point is like for all this like crap we're talking on him, like in his spot against,
Yeah.
against average ATP level competition, guys outside the top 20 on a not slow hard court, he's playable.
Well, that's why I struggled to come up with something to say about him because like I don't think he's challenger level either. Right? Like I think he's
Yeah.
but then again, I don't think
I was
he's
gonna say better than you think because he's so easy to
okay.
bash for all this stuff.
Yeah.
But like he wins tennis matches.
See,
Like
I don't think.
he wins enough tennis matches. He wins enough tennis matches to have a career.
Yeah. I mean, what's his prize money for this year?
Good question. Probably it might be like 500,000.
3 million for his career. 847,000 this year. Yeah.
That's
He
damn good.
17 and 17 for the year, average, right?
Yeah.
So rank 58, which is like not challenger level, but not like
I think what most top 100 guys are getting into, most top 100 guys, if they want to, are getting into ATP tournaments
yeah.
pretty much every week.
I mean, he's not as bad as Tidbits tennis made him on that spaces. Tidbits was bad.
Yeah, and that's
He's
not why I brought him. I just think he's an interesting guy that like some of these guys are like it's not the cleanest to watch and they have a lot of issues, but like they grind out,
wins,
a
yeah.
career.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. All right, my turn.
yeah.
Um Nuno Borges.
Maybe like a mini Baez. Like I would say like he's like a mini, like he's a mini Baez. I don't know. I don't know. This is without even looking at his record against top guys, but he just doesn't seem like I feel like he has to play really well to succeed. Like even against Mensick, like he made a lot of bad errors against Mensick, and all of a sudden that match got really close. Not in the fifth because Mensick ran out of gas, but like I mean he faced match points against Mensick. Like he easily could have lost that match, and he made a lot of errors, but like he has to hit a lot of like really good shots to win points. Like he actually is pretty good at coming forward. He actually is pretty good at the net,
Mm-hmm.
but like he has to like he has to play well to win.
I mean, he's way better than Baez on a hard court. It's not even close.
No, that's true. That is true. That is
Um,
true. I think I meant more in that sense that like can he beat top guys?
no, and we saw him struggle a lot against Medvedev at the US Open, but then again, that was Medvedev's best match of the tournament, and he also pushed Medvedev at the Australian Open, made the fourth round there. I actually think like my if you gave me Borges, I would be like he's sneaky good. Like he's a guy that you don't like think of as a guy that could be like really good on hard court, but he has a good ability to take the ball early. He's solid off both wings. I think he has an underrated serve. You talked about like how he's decent at coming forward. And I feel like
I
when
think
players play him, they're not necessarily like ready for what he brings to the table.
I also like sneaky good because I think he's thought of as like this defense because he doesn't have a lot of power. I
Right.
feel like when I think of him, my initial thought is always like a defensive player or like a defensive player. But he he tries to play offense.
He does. He does. But by taking the ball early, kind of it's like a old school David Goffin kind of feel to him a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, I think he's like sneaky good.
I like the word sneaky good because like he does actually try to beat the other player as opposed to trying to make the other player beat themselves.
Right. Right.
And like your initial thought on him is like, oh, he's just gonna make me he's just gonna try to make me beat myself, but that's not what he's doing. He's really he
Mhm.
does try to like actively win.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, your turn.
Um always hard to think of like which player I'm gonna Ooh. Bautista Agut, RBA.
Um,
I have no idea what I would say for this one either, so I didn't have a word in mind, but I wanted to.
I think he's just a fighter. Like he doesn't have much at this point, but like today I saw some of the match against Feast. Like he just scrapped and clawed his way and like waited for Feast to get tight. It's not like he did anything spectacular, you know? He's like
He
an
is ranked
under,
higher than Fokina right now. He's up to 62 in the world.
it's been a slight resurgence and like, you know, but he's
I mean,
he's
4 months
making
ago
more
we were saying he needed to
balls.
retire. He was done. He couldn't play on the tour anymore, and like
That's why I say
you know,
fighter because he's kind of like fighting his way
yeah,
back, right? Like he's a fighter literally and figuratively. Like that's what he
yeah,
does. And with RBA, like the only thing that matters with him is he making progression on the forehand? Is he hitting that
yeah,
accurately? And like it's not necessarily pushing you back, but is he hitting it accurately in the spots that he wants to? And if he
yeah.
is, he's
100%
playing
agree. I mean,
well, and if
that's
he's not, then he's useless.
yeah, 100% agreed. I'm amazed that he's gotten back to 62, and I know some of that is like the benefit of like a nice draw at Wimbledon, but like I mean, we were calling him dead in the water. He should retire. He was outside
Yeah.
the top 100, like, and he's made a nice push to come back and again be like,
Yeah.
he's a tour player again.
Yeah, he beat Lechka and Feast in Davis Cup this week. It's two good
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, those are good wins. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's next? Monfils. Monfils on a yeah, I guess Monfils. Doesn't matter what surface.
Um, how much is left in the tank is my question there.
Yeah.
Like because I mean, the win over Alcaraz wasn't particularly impressive. Um, he beat Popyrin coming off of Popyrin winning Popyrin winning Canada. I don't think that was that much of a surprise.
Mm.
Who I'm pretty sure both of us bet that. Um, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like he, yeah, I mean, he still is who he's been for his whole career. Like you saw the point against Casper Ruud at the U.S. Open that he completely clowned away. Like it was great
Oh
hustle by
yeah,
Ruud,
I
but like
remember.
Monfils kept like tapping overheads.
I do remember that. I do remember that. I
Like
bet I bet Monfils at what plus 170, I think.
yeah.
Oh. But I think he's better on quicker surfaces now than he is on slower. Like he used to be a better clay court player, but now I think hard is his best surface.
Well, he just doesn't have like the consistent. I feel like with Monfils, like we always say he acts like he's winded, even though he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's more that like for Monfils, I think what wears him out is having to like hit big.
Yeah,
And like
I
he just
agree.
can't hit that many big balls in a match. And like he can do it from time to time, but he can't like consist. He can't like he'll run out of gas if he has to inject pace on a regular basis.
But I think his problem it has been in his career is like his inability to take the ball early and take time away from opponents. Like when he hits big, he always like kind of like lags on the ball a little bit.
No, I think that's a good. I mean more Monfils now. I think that's always. I think that's a fair. I think it's a fair assessment of Monfils' career, though. I agree.
But like he doesn't even when he like hits really big, he doesn't necessarily generate great progression, is what I'm saying. Like when Alcaraz or Sinner hit big, like they always figure out a way to like they make so much regression to the point where it's like the other guy's not coming back.
I agree with you now on Sinner. I think that's something he's gotten a lot better at. Actually, I think that's part of why he's gotten like the biggest part of Sinner's rise has been the defense, but I think a big part of it too has been the getting more comfortable with like transitioning, into
Mhm.
offensive play. Not just finishing at the net, but like when you hit a great shot, a big shot, like coming in a couple steps and getting ready for the next like short ball.
Right.
And I feel like, yeah, that's a great call on Monfils. I kind of agree with you. I don't know that he's ever really has done that particularly well. I think he's always kind of like
Yeah, he's
not
never
really
done none of that. I don't want to like accuse him of being bad tactically though, because I think he's
right. I agree.
tactic.
He just doesn't have a whole lot of like he's never had a whole lot of interest in like really coming forward in general, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily mean that he's bad at it. I mean like he just doesn't hasn't seemed to be particularly like interested in it.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah. All right, one more each, and then we'll get into outlook for the rest of the year.
yeah, I think we're looking for yeah.
Um, are you going or I'm going? It's your turn.
You can go.
I can
Yeah,
go.
because you gave me one first, right?
Sissipas.
Needs time, right? Like that he needs time at this point. Like if he has time, he's a passable player. I mean he's more than passable. If he has time, he still is an elite player. If he doesn't have time, he's a complete mess.
Do you think he'll ever be a top five player again?
I mean,
It's hard for me to believe. He's trending down. Who will be okay? Let's phrase it this way, because this is another guy I wanted to talk about. Who will be ranked higher at the end of the year, Sissipas or Rune?
at the end of this year,
Yeah,
oh,
and
I
I
mean, I'm gonna say Tsitsipas right now he's 500 points ahead. That's a
right, but
massive.
But he's only playing on quick surfaces where he's a complete mess.
Is Rune that much better on quick surfaces? Like 500 points is, I mean, like 500 points is a lot of points for these guys who aren't like
What
top
about the
10 players,
race? What about in the
That's
race?
what I'm saying. The race right now, Tsitsipas is up 550 points. He's got 2735. Rune has 2185. Rune might not get 500 points the rest of the year. Like if he's going to do that, he's going to need a deep run in one of the Masters, or at least like a
Yeah,
quarters at one of the Masters. Like a Masters quarters is only 180 points,
that's
or
true.
maybe it's 200 points. I mean, they redid the
Mhm.
rank point classification, but it's like 500 points is a lot of points. So
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to do better rest of year? I think probably Rune, but I'll take Tsitsipas plus the 550 points.
Okay. So let's make it a handicap. So Sissipas minus 250 points. Do you take that or do you take the rune
Yeah, I
plus?
take Tsitsipas minus 250. I take it minus 250.
Okay.
I think the line should be like 400 or something, 350, 400, something like that.
These would be cool bets if they had them on.
Oh, I wish that some. The problem is like, the issue is like so few people would bet on them. That'd just be like massive like risks, right? Who really is going through all these lines and making that bet? You know what I mean? Like there's so much, and it's also a really hard bet to quantify.
It is.
Like
Fun bet though. Fun bet to place.
it is.
Yeah. All right, you go. Last one.
Last one. Let's go with Tabila. He lost in Davis Cup again, at least once, if not twice this week.
Twice.
And once is a big favorite, right? At least.
Yeah, the Hoffman of all
He lost to
people.
Hoffman in
Like
straight,
hardcore.
5-4.
Yeah. I just think I mean, if we would talk about him now, I think he's just mentally fatigued. I think we
Yeah,
talked.
we already talked about him. I'm gonna pick somebody else. We already talked about him.
Okay.
Um, you know what? Instead of doing that, you had posted a poll a
Oh
couple
yeah,
weeks ago.
that's right.
Let's talk about that. Let's have that. That'll be the last, and that'll be a group of four, and we'll talk about all four of those.
Yeah.
I don't remember who was. It was Cobolli, Arnaldi,
Who will end next season 2025 ranked the highest? Arnaldi, Machac, Cobolli, or Lehecka?
Machac, Cobolli, or Lehecka.
Yeah.
Um,
So we had 110 votes. Arnaldi had 20%. Machac had 9%. But this poll was placed on the day of that Machac horrible performance against Draper. So maybe that's skewing the results a little bit. Cobolli 45% and Lehecka 26%.
well, I would still put Machac. I think Machac is still a level below those guys.
Okay.
I think that what I don't love about Machac, how do you say it?
Yeah.
I know that's a tough name.
Mm-hmm.
Is I think he's a little bit older. Right? I mean, he might be. I mean, I guess he's not that much older. He's only 24. For some reason, I thought he was like older. Um, but I feel like we've like you see runs from him. Like he made really good runs each of the past 2 years at the end of the season on the Challenger Tour. Like really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then like he has like he pops up, but then he has like some just yeah, I
Duds.
don't know, just he just has either I don't know like duds or but almost like dud months, like I don't know before this U.S. Open, before he won these, and honestly, these U.S. Open ones weren't even that impressive. Like Quarter just didn't show up, and then he beat Fognini, and I guess whatever Goffin was doing in that third round match. But you know, yeah, it wasn't amazing. I mean, Fognini on a hard court, not really at this point in his career. Quarter, from what I heard, just didn't show up. Goffin didn't show up, and then he got killed by Draper. But he was lost to Purcell, lost to Popyrin, lost to Montero and Umag. So plenty of not
Mhm.
great losses. But then he had the run where he almost won Geneva. So
Right.
I just feel like with that style, he's gonna be so up and down with that kind of slap be happy style. I don't love that. So I
Slappy
feel the
happy
lovable.
style.
Yeah,
Slappy happy style. Yeah.
but the other three are Cobolli, Arnaldi, and
Well, I think when he's playing well, he's just so fun to watch because he's, very flashy and athletic and he's really good at net. And I feel like he doesn't do this enough when he plays badly is he doesn't utilize his hands at net because I think they're they're incredible,
Well,
actually.
actually, I'm gonna disagree. I don't think he does. The problem is like when he's losing, he doesn't do anything differently. Like there's no adjustments
Right.
with that guy.
True.
Like when it starts off poorly, like and it's not like he gives up. He's not like some of these guys who just give
No.
up. There's just like no, like he's coming out and he's playing his game,
Yeah, but
and
like
it's a
his
little
game,
weird because like
he's not a Mapechi Pericard who has one, right? Like I feel like he has more tools in the bag. He's just too stubborn to use them.
that's my point. That's the whole point. That's why it's interesting, right? Like it's not like a
Yeah.
lot of these guys who are like coming out to play their game and they're going to play their game. It's because like that's the only game they got. Like Machac could like do other stuff, but he just like doesn't think to, doesn't want to overcomplicate. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like it's.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. And then I feel like he's overly aggressive. He's a very
Well, I
aggressive
agree. Yeah, well,
player.
that's what I mean, and that's my point. Is he's always super aggressive. So like even if he's not making balls, like if he's not making balls, it's not like he suddenly starts going for bigger targets. Like it's just the same tactics.
I know. That's why for me it's so hard to differentiate between Machac and Arnaldi. Because like they're the same player, but they're different players.
Yeah, I feel like Arnaldi, and this is going to sound ridiculous. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's going to be more of a word salad,
Mhm.
but I feel like there's more of a path for Arnaldi to like learn the tactics he needs. Like I feel like with Arnaldi, he just kind of like maybe overestimates himself some matches and sometimes. Like he just has a tendency to like overhit when he doesn't need to, or when he really shouldn't.
Mhm.
Um, like I feel like Arnaldi tends to overhit more, whereas Mahash is it's more like he's like too aggressive in his targets, if that makes sense.
Good point. Yeah,
And so I
Mahac's
think
targets are
because of
definitely
that,
yeah.
like I think I'd rather have the guy. I think I'd rather have the guy who like we just got to teach him to tone it back, but I don't know. Yeah, for whatever reason, and I don't know, like I could be wrong. I think Arnaldi is a better athlete on the baseline. I think he's a better mover. Mahac has better hands, I would say.
I would agree with that.
Um, yeah, but I think I'd put
I
yeah.
feel
So Arnaldi and Cobolli, and who's the fourth guy in there?
Lechka.
Petchka. Oof.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've got Lehecka a level below. I think I probably so it's funny you brought up Arnaldi. Probably third for me. Probably third. Um, I mean
I feel like the problem with Arnaldi is he doesn't know when to play defense and when to play offense. He's like caught in between. Like when he plays defense, he's like extremely good and explosive at it, but he doesn't know how to transition into offense. Or like he doesn't know how to like he just goes for that flashy backhand sliding pass, but he never does the like the two-shot pass or the three-shot pass.
yeah, I think he's just got a lot to learn tactically in general. The more you bring it up, he's just got I think a lot
Yeah.
to learn tactically and a lot to learn in terms of like how to win tennis matches.
Yeah.
Like I think his mental makeup is pretty good,
Yeah.
but I think he's got a lot to learn in how to win tennis matches. Um, whereas Lehechka's the opposite. Like Lehechka, the I think the mental's a real problem.
Yeah. I agree with that.
He's probably got the best strokes out of these four guys when you take into
I
account
agree with
both
that. Yeah.
wings.
Yep.
But I think his tactics can be pretty poor at times. Um,
I think his compete level can be pretty poor at times.
And I think he also has a tendency to choke or just do really dumb stuff. Like, yeah.
I think
So
it's more his compete level. Like when he's not feeling it, he's just like not gonna compete that day. He's gonna worry more about his hair.
I think it's both. Like I think there's also
Okay.
like uh a handling pressure issue. I don't know. I've seen him like I think he never should have lost the match to Murray last year. Tiafoe he actually should have beaten this year at can't remember where they played. They played late at night in one of the tournaments, and Lehecka should have beaten him. He had a really easy, really easy forehand. One of the worst misses you'll see of the year on a 15-40 point. He just like put long, and there was like no reason to miss. It was like he had like an open court, and like all he had to do was just like he had like an open court. It was from like inside the service line. Like all he had to do was put the ball in the open court from the service line. And he like hit it long. Like he was just like just
That was
complete.
in Cincinnati this year, right?
Yeah, it was Cincinnati. Yeah, it was a match that ended up going to a tiebreak. But I think he came back from a break down in the third, if I remember right,
Tiafoe had multiple like
to force it to a tie.
Houdini,
What?
Houdini. Tiafoe had multiple Houdini acts to get to the final there.
That's
The
what I'm saying. That's
Rune,
why
the
I'm not sure.
Lechka.
That's why I'm not sure about Tiafoe, man. Like, we'll see. But anyways, I just feel like he's. Yeah, I think there's a lot of mental there. I would go with Cobolli. Like, I think there's. I'm not saying Cobolli's perfect, but I think I would take Cobolli over the other three.
Yeah,
I
it's
think if I had to
hard
rank
because
them,
like Arnaldi, if he finds a way to put it together, I think he's the best athlete of the four,
for sure. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think Lechka has the best strokes of the four. I think Cobolli is the best mentally of the four. And I think Machac has the best hands of the four, right?
Which is why Machac is number 4 on the list, right? Like
Exactly.
if you're comparing those four traits for me, I think hands would be the bottom.
And I'm high on Machac. Like I like Machac, but yeah, he's four. Three, I'd probably go with oh man. I'd probably go with Arnaldi at three. Probably go Lechka two and Cobolli one, but it's splitting hairs. Like
It really is. It is like the top three. I think Mahash is a clear fourth to me. I don't
yeah.
think it was stupid of you to put him in the poll, but I think like to me he's a clear fourth, and then the other three guys it's really tough. I think I would go Cobolli one. The Lehecka Arnaldi is really close.
Yeah. Cobolli, I feel like he doesn't really know when to rein it in either. Like I like him tactically better than Arnaldi, which is why he's higher slightly, but I still feel like he doesn't
Oh,
know.
he still has matches where he just completely doesn't rein it in. Yeah, I mean he's got a lot of the same issues Arnaldi does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think his strokes are better than Arnaldi's, and I think his and I don't think he has as far to go tactically as Arnaldi does. Like,
He's like a hybrid of Lechka and Arnaldi,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what Cobolli is. With a slightly better backhand, I think, than Lechka. Like Mahak also has the best backhand of the four.
That's true. That's true. Cobolli's got the best forehand, right?
Yes. And Lechka has the best serve,
Yeah.
right? And Mahak has the best volleys,
And Arnold's got the best movement.
right? Yeah, we didn't accomplish
Yeah,
this is the best. Yeah, it's
it's tough. It's really you put the right four guys in the poll. It's really tough. It's tough.
yeah, it is. It is. All right, so let's talk about like outlook for the remainder of the year. So it's we got two 250s next week.
Yep. And I
And
think the week after that is two 500s, right? Beijing,
yep,
Tokyo, and then
yep. And
right
then
after that they go into
Shanghai.
Shanghai. And then I think after that it's just does it go right to Vienna and Basel after that? Or is there a week of indoor two or is
No,
there
we
like an
have
Antwerp?
Almaty. So Almaty, Stockholm, and Antwerp. Three 250s.
Ah, there's Antwerp week. See, I knew it. I knew it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we got Vienna and
Um,
Basel. Then we
yeah.
got the
And
Paris
then you've got
indoors.
Paris, and then you got Metz that weird week afterwards where you have Metz sitting out there, right?
And
Is it again?
They added another 250 in Belgrade as well.
Right, there's Belgrade, yeah.
And then we got the World Tour Finals, then the Davis Cup Finals, and then the next gen finals are in December this year, December 18th through 22nd.
That's strange. I don't understand why they would do that.
Does anything make sense on this tour?
No, no, but that makes like that's a weird. That the next gen is kind of a silly turn. I don't. I mean,
I
I
don't
don't.
like it.
I never care about the next gen. Like,
Yeah. So in Chengdu, we got Musetti, Shang, Yari, Bublik, Pericard, Monterino, Martinez, and Sonigo. That's a weak field. Oof. And then Hangzhou, you got Rublev, Rune, Zhang, Wu, Yibing Wu, Karen Kachanov, Echeverry, Darderi, and Nakashima. I think Nakashima might be live there.
yeah, yeah. Well, we just talked about him. Can he take down a 250?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
I
might be the
think.
time. So, and then we got Laver Cup as well, your favorite event.
Well, that's next week, right? That's why a lot of the top guys aren't playing because they're playing labor.
Right. Yeah,
Which
Alcaraz.
again, like, man, like it's so funny because I was looking at the Labor Cup rosters.
Yep.
And like, is World Team even trying to win this? Because like, if you look at their roster, like, or not World Team, I meant
I mean,
sorry, I meant
Paul and Demon were pulled out. So you have
no, I get that.
Cerullo.
I understand. I understand. Like, there's so many pullouts that World Team has a hard time filling a roster. I understand that. I meant as Team Europe trying to win this. Like, this roster includes Tsitsipas and Rude. Like, what are those two guys doing? Like, why is Tsitsipas on this roster? It's just star power, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think Sinner wanted to play, right? They probably
Oh,
offered
I'm
him
sure Sinner didn't want to play. I'm sure they would have asked. I'm sure Sinner. Yeah, I'm sure Sinner didn't want to play. But why Tsitsipas?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't have found someone better. I guess, or like, yeah, I'd way rather have Rublev than Tsitsipas.
The Laver Cup court, that black court typically plays pretty slow though.
Okay, all right.
So,
No, wait, is it always the same court? Because they move it from location to location. Is it
yeah,
always
I
the
think
same
it's the
court,
same
same
court.
surface?
It's the same.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of hard court surface it is, but yeah, I think it's the same court.
Okay.
But I think Team World had a big advantage, but now it's probably evened out with no Paul and Demonor. Probably Europe has the
I don't
advantage
know. I
now
think that,
because Dimitrov took
I,
Nadal's place.
which is a huge upgrade for Team World.
It is. But I mean,
Um,
is Dimitrov hurt though? Like that's a thing. Like he's coming off an injury as well.
I can't imagine that he's going to play this if he's really that hurt, or he's, you know what I mean, like, or that he's going to play more than one singles match, right? Because they can, like, what is the rule? Everybody has to play at least one singles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could easily see them having Dimitrov play one match and then sit the rest of the event out. Like,
Federer didn't have to play singles though.
right, right.
It's
So
just
it depends on the guy. Yeah. I mean, again, like this event is an exhibition, right? Like it's a
it
glorified
is.
exhibition. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like it's
I
we'll
went
like
to
I
the
said, we'll see
last
what they
four
do.
editions.
What?
I went to the last four editions. I'm not going this
Were
year.
you there for Federer's last match?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah. It was cool. It was a cool night. That was
Yeah.
nice. But yep. Yeah, so should be an
Um,
interesting end to the year. I can't wait for next week where we get two 250s and like I can't believe also that we prefer the 250s over the slams now. Like we've gotten to that point, right?
but I think I just think the second week of the slams is like, like sometimes it's like the second week of the year. Like I mean, that was the issue, right? It's like the second week of the U.S. Open just wasn't that fun.
It wasn't. It wasn't. And the matches weren't
Like
that.
the match, well, the match quality wasn't that good. The matchups weren't that interesting. Like Sinner Fritz is not a particularly interesting matchup.
No, it's just two ball strikers where one is clearly better than the other,
Yeah, like
right?
yeah.
Sinner is better at Fritz in pretty much every facet, but they do everything.
Serve. I think Fritz's serve
Strengths
is
are very
better.
similar.
Fritz's serve is better, I would say.
Okay. That's the only thing.
That's the only thing he's got
And it's
though. Yeah.
slight. It's not big. Big difference.
Well, it's not enough to make it to make it that you think Fritz is going to win the match, But yeah, I agree. In terms of, I wanted to point out something. The race to Turin
Mm-hmm.
is really interesting. I don't know if you saw that. Oh, just an update, by the way. The Germany USA match is kicked off. It's
Okay.
Squire against Opelka. So that tells you like how interested both teams are in winning this tie. Like,
That's hilarious. Is there a
yeah.
betting line for it?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good question.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, the race at Turin. So the top four guys are going to make it, but if you want to pull it up, so that people can, if everybody who's actually watching this podcast on YouTube, they can see it. I think this race at Turin is really fascinating this year.
Oh, let's see here. All right, here we go.
So like you got Fritz there at 38.90, right?
Yep.
And he'll probably make it because he's about 1,000 points ahead of the cut,
Yep.
but or 600 points ahead of the cut. But like, there's no American tournaments left. He's gonna have to do, and I think he plays way better in America. He's gonna have to finish it off in Asia, so that's not a guarantee. There's
Yep.
no slow. There's not too much left in terms of slow courts. Some of the indoor stuff in Europe's a little slower because Rue's next at 37.95, but there's
Mm-hmm.
no clay left, and there's not too much slow court left. It's mostly quicker courts, so
Yep.
that doesn't favor Rude.
No.
Rublev really should make turn at this point if he's there mentally.
He should be there mentally.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty good bet to make it. So that's six. But you like,
Who did he
and
lose
that
to
that assumes Fritz gets in.
who did he lose to at the US Open?
Rublev lost to not Sinner.
It wasn't a good performance. Oops. Can't believe I'm blanking.
Yeah, I know. I'm not happy that I'm blanking either. Oh, Dimitrov. That's right. Lost to Dimitrov in five. But
Oh,
Dimitrov
that's
didn't
right.
play well. That was not a good match.
I didn't see that.
You could start to see Dimitrov was leaking oil that match. Is when you probably
Really?
actually really like, yeah, could start to see that it wasn't starting to go well. In hindsight, of course. Um, so Rublev is seventh. Demonar's eighth. Demonar's, I mean, the way Demonar looked at the US Open, he looks like he's still hurt. Like, how much is he going to play and how well is he going to be able to play? Like, how much is he able to recover
He
especially
needs
if
to
he's
be
playing every
healthy to
week,
play
trying to
his
make.
best. He needs to be healthy to be playing his best because like he relies on his movement so much.
Yeah.
You know?
Djokovic, how many tournaments is he playing, right? Is in ninth, right?
That's an
But
interesting
I think he's
question
only got,
mark. Is he
I
planning
think,
on playing a lot?
I looked this up before. I think he's only scheduled for two more tournaments.
Is he playing that tournament in Belgrade?
He's not scheduled for it. I think I saw he was scheduled for.
He's playing Davis Cup against Ionis Xylis of Greece.
Yeah, I think I saw that he was scheduled. Okay, I think he's scheduled for Shanghai,
Mm-hmm.
Paris,
And that's it.
and I think that's it. Like, I don't think he's scheduled for any of the 500s.
I have a feeling
I
he's
think it's
gonna
just
play Shanghai though, because like they're just gonna throw so much money at him.
yeah, he'll probably play Shanghai and he'll probably play Paris, but like, yeah, that might like if he doesn't play if he doesn't play the 500s, because is he in Labour Cup or not? He's not,
No,
right?
no.
But I think he's in that Six Kings Slam is coming up, right? That dumbass event in Saudi. Is he playing that?
When is that?
I think it's in October.
Yeah, it's
16th, 19th of October.
oh wow. That's probably why Nadal didn't play the Labor Cup because
He can retire at the Six Kings.
yeah.
He can be the King of Kings.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I mean, if you want a conspiracy theory, how much money would the Saudis be willing to throw at Nadal to retire there to make that Six Kings a big deal? Like, how much money would that be worth to them?
More than six figures, that's for sure. Well, more than nine, more might be more than eight figures.
Yeah, I mean, really, right? Like, my thought was like, my over under was gonna be like 100 mil. Like, would it be worth 100 mil for the Saudis to throw Nadal 100 mil to get him to retire there? Like,
Uh,
um, but yeah,
yeah,
I don't know what he's gonna play, but I don't know. He may not play anything else though
I don't think he will.
besides the Masters. So he's gonna have to have two good runs to beat all these guys out, you would think. Dimitrov looks like he's hurt. Tommy Paul, can he make up enough points? Like, can Tommy Paul, like, what odds would you need on Tommy Paul to win the ATP Tour Finals?
Or to make it, you mean?
No, to win it. It's a
Oh,
big number, right? Like, to
to
make it is
win
a
it.
fun one too, but to win it, like, yeah, to win it, like
From a mental
like
perspective, so
100 to
I
1, 200 to
probably
1,
need I probably need 125 to 1.
something like that. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm more on the same range, but like, but I think he's got a pretty good chance to make it, man. Because Tsitsipas is a disaster. Like, I know he's 600 points back, but like, these should be good courts for him, right? If he's not exhausted.
Yeah, should be good. I mean, he has to make up what?
You know
He's
what though? 1,000 points. You know what? The problem is the only guy he's got to catch Demon. It's all about Demon's health. And although you know what though, man, like you probably won't agree, but like I don't know, man. Tommy Paul could be a threat to vulture one of these masters. If Sinner doesn't, if Sinner, if Sinner somehow loses, Paul could be a threat, man. Like, who is significantly better than Tommy Paul besides Sinner on a quick hard court?
I agree with you, but Paul doesn't win tournaments often. Like he's only won. Well, he did win Queens. I'll give you that. And then he won, I think, Dallas, right? Those were his two
Dallas
wins.
this year, yeah. So that's, I mean, 2 wins is pretty good, man. Two one tournaments is like that doesn't sound great, but that's pretty good
He's never won a
for a
Masters
non-top 10
1000,
guy who
though. I don't think
plays.
he's ever made a final of a Masters 1000. I don't know. I He has to prove it to me before I really believe that he can win one of these events. Because like the reason
I'm
why
not
John
saying he's
Stock
going
Sweet, but I
what?
feel like he's gonna have to win one of these tournaments to get in.
Well, can he win a 500? or a 500 or 250. That seems pretty reasonable. I'm not sure what he's playing, and he's playing. I'm not sure what he's playing, what his schedule is, but I think he's just like right now he's playing so much better than any of those other guys on the list outside the top five. It's just a matter of if he can make up the
Right.
points.
But the thing is, there are always some guys that like rack up some serious points at this part of the season. Like I feel like FAA could have a really good run. I
Yeah,
feel
but he's so far out. 2,000
yeah,
points is way too
I'm not
much.
talking about
Making Turin. No,
making
but I get
current.
it. But they could upset. They could vulture some points here and make it tough for Tommy. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I think Ugo Humbert could be a live look to win one of these events. I think Shelton, like he had a really good event time last year. Like I'm
Yeah,
not
I agree
saying Shelton
with
can do that
with
again,
the
but I
serve
think
on a fast court. Yeah,
yeah, and without
Draper.
elements or wind.
Like I just think it's really interesting because there's like I just meant the way I really was what I was really kind of bringing up is like 5 through 15. Like I have no confidence in any of those guys except ironically Tommy.
I think he's playing better than anyone, but I don't that doesn't mean I have confidence in him.
Okay, all right. I have more confidence in Tommy than anybody else outside the top five. Maybe Rublev aside. Rublev is I have quite a bit of confidence in too, but like, and then of course the real burning question from like a tennis marketing perspective is will Novak get in, right? Like that's the real burning question because he's right
Yeah.
outside the top eight right now.
Yeah, it all depends on how much Djokovic plays. Like,
Yeah, I mean, although you do know if he has to, he can easily steal a wild card into Belgrade last week if he has to make up points.
right. But if you ask me, like if I was betting at minus 110, whether or not two of the guys in the current top eight make it or don't make it, I'm gonna say it would stay the same at minus 110.
So one of those top, so at least seven of the guys, at least two of those guys, five, because everybody in the top four are gonna make it
Right.
just by math. So of those, so you think of those top four, at least three will get in. Or of the four you've listed right here, Fritz, Rude, Rublev, Demonor, you think
Yes.
three of those guys are gonna make
Three
the
of those
top
guys
eight,
get in. Because
and then there's one spot left.
I think Fritz and Rublev are pretty much shoe-ins. Because I think they're
I think even though there's not any American tournaments, I agree. I think Fritz can. He's 630 points ahead of Novak, 500 points on D. He's got almost 600 on Demonor. I think
yeah.
just given the math, he can do enough to get
And
in.
like if Demonor is healthy, I think he stays in. And like I think Rude's lead is just good enough where he should be able to squeak
Hold
in.
on. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
So, but the
Um,
fact that Novak and Dimitrov and Paul are like all in the rear view mirror, I think it's quite interesting.
yeah, I
So
mean, I think I think those three guys. I mean, I think those three guys all have a chance. Like
yeah,
again, it's not like the top eight are playing that well. Like,
right, right.
um,
All right. So wow, it's a long recap pod, but we had a lot to talk about. It's nice to chat tennis again.
yeah, I mean, yeah, really nice to have a
Awesome.
tennis chat.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else who I'm like really, in terms of things that I'm really looking at for this hard court swing. Probably nothing else that I can think of off top of mind that's like really huge. There's definitely other stuff. Oh, but there's just see hey, what's that Yibing Wu been up to?
I think he's like playing some challengers, but he's just
He just
like
won a
kind of
challenge. He won a
working.
challenger a couple weeks ago. Really
Really?
low level challenger though. Yeah, he's been out forever. There's not it's not yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, he's playing. Yeah, he won the one in Jinan, but then lost the next week to Gombos.
Yeah.
So
Almost.
yeah. Yeah, but he's slowly making his way back. So
Slowly, yeah.
yeah. But next week we have two 250s and Labor Cup, so we'll be back to probably preview them. I think the tournament starts on Wednesday. They have those weird like midweek start
Yeah,
time.
it's a weird, yeah, it's a yeah, well, the problem is they like set themselves up for Shanghai, right? Because they know that like
Right.
there's only 2 weeks and then they go into Shanghai. So they got like ramp it up properly.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll be back probably Monday or Tuesday to have a preview pod. So
Yep. All right, guys, everyone. It's been a long pod,
all
but
right. Yep.
somebody be our 2000th follower already. Dang it.
Yes. All right. Have a good night, everyone. See ya.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone.